When hungry, she ate moldy bread. When thirsty, she waited for rainy days to drink rainwater. A 3-year-old little girl, living a life worse than a dog's. There was no choice, as her mother died in childbirth the moment she was born. And this wasn't her first time being human. Having lived through 2 previous lives, this was her 3rd reincarnation. In her first life, she was a 21st century senior architect who died in an accident. In her second life, she became an architect's assistant, but was condemned by a tyrant's decree that all architects must die. On the road, she encountered a pregnant woman, so she gave her only piece of bread to her. This act of kindness earned her a ring from the grateful woman. It was precisely this magical ring that at the moment of her second death brought her to the dawn of her 3rd life. Unfortunately, she still couldn't escape her tragic fate. With her mother deceased and father's whereabouts unknown, she could only endure daily abuse from her cruel wet nurse. But on this particular day, while being beaten, suddenly the door opened, just as she made out the man's appearance. "Duke, Your Grace." The girl's trembling eyes were filled with confusion. Why would such a noble person appear in a place like this? However, seeing the wet nurse nearly frightened to death this time, she sensed this was an opportunity. She tearfully recounted the woman's crimes, then begged the man, "Please take me away." The man wrapped his arm around her waist, murmuring, "So light," then held her in his arms, covering her eyes. "Deal with the one on the ground." The next day, she awoke on a soft, luxurious bed. The girl looked left and right. This place is so grand and magnificent. But how did she end up here? It was then she learned that she had actually been reborn as the Duke's daughter. After the new wet nurse dressed and groomed her, she discovered her name was Vivi. Wearing beautiful new clothes, Vivi felt as if everything was a dream. When she finished eating and went to pay respects to the Duke, meeting those piercing eyes, Vivi couldn't help but shiver. The Andante family was one where even speaking incorrectly could result in a sword being drawn against one's own flesh and blood. And everyone possessed remarkable abilities. If they discovered she was utterly useless, would she be disposed of? The girl didn't want to die again like before. This time she wanted to live long and prosper. "It seems I need to properly demonstrate my abilities to father." At that moment she noticed the paper the Duke was holding, which appeared to contain a mathematics problem. To survive under her ruthless father's care, she decided to help solve the mathematical equation. The girl rushed to her father's side. "Please let me have it." She guessed the problem was calculating a sphere's volume. The difficulty should be around 8th grade mathematics level. For someone who had been a senior architect in 2 lives, this was absolutely easy. "Please let me have it," she requested once more. She believed that by demonstrating her exceptional abilities, father wouldn't dispose of her. The man remained silent for quite a while, then handed it to her. Taking the paper, she saw it was exactly as she had suspected. It took her about 3 minutes to calculate the correct answer. This sphere's area is 113.14. Suddenly, she realized something was wrong. She was only 3 years old, and the formula she used didn't exist in this world. How could she explain her strange behavior? At this moment, the man also looked serious. "How did you calculate this?" Vivi fidgeted with her small hands. I just knew it at first glance." The wet nurse then remarked, "It seems the young lady is a genius," after being stunned for a few seconds. Vivi quickly acted cute to change the subject. "I'm hungry." When she saw the table full of delicacies, she really couldn't control her drooling. Father had to leave for a meeting. While she stuffed food into her mouth, she reflected. Father's expression seemed to have become much gentler because of that math problem. After the meal, she toured the Duke's mansion under the wet nurse's guidance. Suddenly, the wet nurse noticed the ring on the young lady's hand. It seemed identical to the Duchess's. Vivi stared at the ring in a daze. This was given to her by the pregnant woman in her previous life. Just as she pondered what this meant, the Duke's voice sounded behind her. "Why is she here?" Meeting those crimson eyes, Vivi felt somewhat afraid. Could it be that father is displeased with me being here? Thinking this, she involuntarily stepped backward, but stepped on a small flower. "It's over. I've ruined father's beloved garden. Father is going to send me away." She was about to be killed by her father. At this moment, father took her hand. Vivi tremblingly said she was wrong, but the man simply held her small hand without speaking. Unexpectedly, Vivi was not only not sent away, but gained 2 dedicated maids who brought gifts prepared by father. "Young lady, these are million gold cookies." "Young lady, this is the Duke's most treasured quill pen." "Young lady, His Grace the Duke loves you dearly." After staring at these items for 3 seconds, Vivi's sharp eyes spotted the mathematics problems on the table. Could father's meaning be that if she didn't want to be sent away, she had to solve all of these? So she picked up the quill pen, planning to work on the problems first, calculating in her mind that this pen looked very expensive. If she really got kicked out, she'd sell it for money. But the maid held her and sat on the sofa. "Young lady should eat first. You can only study when you're full." Who knew that with one bite? Vivi immediately thought it was explosively delicious, having only eaten moldy bread to fill her stomach before. She never imagined cookies could taste so wonderful, so blissful. She truly wished she could stay here forever. Suddenly she thought of something, taking out 2 cookies to give to the maids. "Good things should be shared. That's how we become happier." Seeing the young lady being so adorable and thoughtful, the maids couldn't help but hug and cuddle her. We're really looking forward to the young lady's birthday in a month. As it turned out, on her birthday, Vivi was pulled up early in the morning, while the maid dressed and groomed her. She was told that His Grace the Duke would also attend. Thinking she hadn't seen father for a long time, Vivi poked her little cheek. Then I must perform well later. But she waited in the dining room for 3 hours, without seeing any sign of father. Actually, she could understand her birthday was the day father lost his wife. For father, facing her must be very painful. She could only make a wish to celebrate her birthday with daddy next year. Suddenly, urgent footsteps approached. Then father's voice could be heard. I'm late because something came up. The man's travel-worn appearance made Vivi both surprised and delighted. The Duke glanced at her once, then seriously explained, there was a robbery gang causing trouble. I rushed over after dealing with them. I won't be late again next year. Hearing this, Vivi had a flash of inspiration. Great people once said that good deeds should be praised. Now was a perfect opportunity to showcase her rainbow flattery. So she cleared her throat. Daddy going to punish those bad people was so cool. Daddy is the absolute best. But the air froze in that instant. Her raised thumb was frozen solid by father's attitude. It wasn't until much later that he asked what the gesture meant. Vivi quickly explained it represented awesome, cool, and amazing. Father immediately smiled slyly, then keep it raised. Afterwards, Vivi celebrated surrounded by everyone, blowing out candles and eating cake. Having lived 3 lifetimes, this was her first birthday party. In her first life, only advertising texts wished her happy birthday. In her second life, she didn't even know when her birthday was. In this life, she was so happy. Father even asked if she wanted any gifts. Surely she couldn't have a birthday without presents. But Vivi felt she already had enough. Seeing she truly couldn't think of anything, the Duke promised. Before next year's birthday, whatever she wanted would be granted. After saying this, he got up to handle official business. Only then did Vivi notice. There were bloodstains on father's shoulder. Was daddy injured? But before she could ask, father had already walked away. On the way back to her room that evening, Vivi made a wish in the maid's arms. I want to grow up quickly, so I can help daddy. But looking at her suddenly enlarged body, Vivi pondered for 3 seconds, then decided to run first. She had no idea this was the ring's power, so she fled the Duke's mansion that very night, mainly because she couldn't explain this phenomenon. But she was also excited, anticipating the Empire's prosperous scenery 100 years later. But when she ran out and looked around, the streets were pitch black with no people in sight. All the houses looked like they were about to collapse, devastated and with nowhere to go. Vivi found a tree and sat there all night. In her dreams, she saw the scene of being beheaded in her second life. Upon waking, she understood. Could it be that the current state of these houses was because all the architects had died? However, the most important thing now was figuring out how to survive. Using the short sword she had stolen from the mansion, she sold it for 1 gold coin. But suddenly, she lost all desire to spend money. The city was so desolate, she didn't know where to go or what to do. Thinking of her kind wet nurse, and the maids who looked at her with starry eyes every day, Vivi felt very sad. If she had known it would turn out this way, she wouldn't have said she wanted to grow up quickly. She really wanted to go back. Just as these words left her lips, her head inexplicably began to feel dizzy. Then she collapsed heavily to the ground. The ring on her hand glowed with a faint light. Until much later, she was awakened by noisy sounds. She saw 1 fat and 1 thin person crouching in front of her, staring at her with ill intentions. Vivi was shocked to discover she had turned back into a child. But at this moment, dirty hands were already reaching for her. One man poked her little cheek. You little thing, can you be sold for a lot of money? Then she was thrown into a tent. As long as you behave and don't run, we won't beat you. After saying this, the fat and thin men left. Vivi prayed, someone please save me, but accidentally overheard the human traffickers mention something about corpses. It's over. It seems she was doomed to die. But thinking again, what was scary about corpses? Speaking of death, she was still a veteran, so she mustered her courage and looked around. Even deliberately sniffing, there was no smell of decay or blood. Just as she let her guard down, a white cloth not far away caught her attention. She could see a child lying inside. Vivi immediately turned pale with fright. Is it a dead person? She reached out to check the boy's pulse. Strangely, the pulse was still there, but the boy's body was ice cold. Looking at how handsome the boy was, Vivi had a flash of inspiration. If she gave him some warmth, maybe he would wake up. Thinking this, she took the boy's hand and rubbed it several times. But no matter how long she rubbed, the boy showed not the slightest reaction. Seeing he was wearing both a mask and shackles, Vivi wanted to help him remove them, but the moment her hand touched them, she was repelled by a mysterious force. She wanted to do something more, but there was a bang outside the door. A great fire blazed as if they were under sudden attack. Vivi sensed this was a good opportunity to escape. But what about the boy in front of her? Since he was still alive, she couldn't just ignore him. Open your eyes, corpse. If you don't get up now, you'll really become a corpse. After trying for 3 seconds, she gave up. Although it was a pity about that handsome face, she had already done her best. Vivi pulled back the curtain. while praying, "Please let there be no one outside." But a pair of feet stepped in. Seeing this, she quickly cried, "I wasn't trying to escape." Looking up, she saw Daddy's handsome face. "Vivi, I've been searching for you for so long." From the moment he learned his daughter was missing, the Duke dropped all official duties to search everywhere, not even bothering to treat the wound on his shoulder. But seeing Daddy, Vivi froze in place. She never expected he would come to rescue her. What should she do now? Should she thank him or act cute? What should one do when happy? Unable to think of anything, Vivi could only shed tears. The Duke gently comforted, "Don't cry anymore. There will never be scary things again." But she cried even louder, taking Daddy's offered large hand. Once she had wished for someone to treat her gently. It felt like her wish had come true. At this moment, she suddenly remembered. There was still a corpse lying there. Vivi asked Daddy to take him home together. The obedient Duke then picked up the boy. On the way back, he had just coaxed his daughter to sleep when his expression changed. "Tomorrow, have all the gate guards assemble." When they arrived at the Duke's mansion, the wet nurse was the first to rush over and hug her. After the young lady went missing, they were extremely worried. No one knew she had grown large and snuck out. They had thought she was being held captive by villains. The wet nurse brought little cakes and fruit. Vivi, now dressed in clean clothes, nibbled on the sweet and fragrant apple pie, and was fed grapes by the wet nurse. She felt so good to be back home. Unfortunately, the boy she had brought back still hadn't awakened. Father said he seemed to be under a complex curse, but she believed Father would surely find a way to save him. Now in Vivi's eyes, the Duke was the most devoted and gentle person in the world. However, the next day while passing through the corridor, she saw soldiers kneeling all over the ground. "Your Grace, we were wrong. Please spare our lives." Vivi watched in bewilderment from the side. Could it be that because she had sneaked out, Father was going to kill everyone? The next second, a man's icy voice rang out. "With so many guards on duty, suspicious people can still come and go. I give you 1 hour. End it yourselves." Seeing the soldiers raise their swords to commit suicide, Vivi immediately rushed over and shielded them behind her. "No, you can't kill them. Even a man who kills without batting an eye cannot withstand his precious daughter's tears. A father who kills people is too scary." Instantly, all his anger dissipated, and he even began to doubt himself. Am I really that frightening? Meanwhile, his daughter, now in full acting mode, hid fearfully beside the wet nurse. The wet nurse comforted her. "His Grace will show great mercy, so please don't cry anymore." Listening obediently, Vivi sobbed while looking toward Father. The man immediately surrendered, withdrawing his earlier command, changing from taking everyone's lives to docking their pay for a month. Vivi secretly breathed a sigh of relief. The soldiers looked at the young miss as if an angel had descended. "Thank you, Your Grace, thank you, miss." But only Vivi knew in her heart that it was originally because her body had suddenly grown larger, and she had slipped out of the Duke's mansion, that such a big mess had occurred. She couldn't help but wonder, what was this business of her body growing and shrinking? At this moment, she asked the wet nurse, "Has the child from last night awakened? I'd like to go see him." Unfortunately, this was overheard by the Duke. He first said the boy had been sent elsewhere, then asked with a darkened expression, "You're not coming to see me first, but going to see that little brat instead?" Sensing Father's anger, Vivi quickly explained that she wanted to visit Father before bedtime, because seeing her handsome father before sleep would make him appear in her dreams. Facts prove that coquettish women have the best fate. Though the Duke showed nothing on the surface after hearing this, he smiled when he turned around. That evening, Vivi, dressed up by the maids, put on a cute pink little dress, and knocked on her father's door. Seeing her arrival, the Duke appeared fierce. "Go sit there, drink this up." Actually, since it had grown cold, he had specially prepared hot cocoa to warm his daughter. But paired with his icy expression, Vivi nearly downed the entire scalding cup in one go. Feeling Father's affection, Vivi also wanted to do something, so she gathered her courage. "Father, I have something to give you." Because she had seen Father worrying over official business regarding weapon manufacturing, she immediately offered a simpler formula calculation method. The man's voice immediately grew deep. "I've always felt you were extraordinary, and indeed." Vivi grew nervous. Was he about to discover she wasn't really a child? But the Duke said instead, "Vivi, you're a genius." Father hadn't noticed, but just as she relaxed, the Duke continued, "When exceptionally capable people cannot protect their power, they will become prey in others' eyes, so you must be careful." Hearing Father's warning, the little one widened her adorable eyes. "Then, can't Father always stay by my side to protect me?" After saying this, she quickly explained, "It doesn't have to be forever, just until I grow up. I hope Father can stay here with me." His daughter's cautious, tentative manner made the old father feel somewhat heartbroken. If not for her mother's death at birth, and his failure to reach her side in time, she wouldn't have been abused by that wicked wet nurse. So he promised, "I understand," though it wasn't a warm declaration. For a man who was always cold, this was already quite good. Within a few days, the formula Vivi had provided for Father was applied to weapon development. To avoid exposing his daughter's identity, he deliberately concealed who had invented the formula. But good times didn't last long. the wet nurse suddenly left the Duke's mansion. Apparently something had happened at her home, and that night, after Vivi had listened to a story told by a maid, she fell asleep, though not deeply, and accidentally overheard that a guest would come tomorrow. Is it the Baroness who found the wet nurse who abused the young miss? Vivi was startled, only then learning that this lady was actually her aunt by relation. The Baron was father's younger brother, and the second heir to the Duke's estate. Lying in bed, Vivi clenched her little fists. If they're here to cause trouble, I absolutely won't let them get away with it. To ensure her own son would inherit the title, the newborn baby became a thorn in her side. She secretly found a perverted wet nurse. And for the next 3 years, Vivi was either being beaten or starved. Fortunately, Duke father later brought her home. Otherwise, she would certainly have been tortured to death. So now looking at the wicked woman before her, Vivi smiled and greeted her on the surface. While flames of revenge burned within her heart, the other party also showed a false smile, calling for her children to bow to his grace. Then a little chubby boy and a short-haired girl got off the carriage. The boy was called Euston. The girl was called Magina. The two immediately launched into their performance, the girl mocking Vivi for not even knowing how to greet people properly, while the boys showed off their family carriage. Have you ever seen such a magnificent golden carriage? This was handcrafted by the most famous artisan. If you beg me, I'll let you experience it. Vivi turned her little head away. What trash is worth showing off? As one of the 3 great ducal families, almost all handcrafted goods circulating in the market came from her household. You could say she was a rich second generation living off inherited wealth. What need did she have to envy others? At this moment, the Duke nearby asked, "Vivi, do you want that carriage?" Before Vivi could respond, the Baroness began lecturing the children. You should understand. Though you've been both smart and sensible since childhood, Vivi is different. She said this with a fake smile. Afterward, everyone dined together. Even eating with people she disliked, Vivi remained energetic. After all, the food was innocent, but her carefree eating drew the chubby boy's disdain. How stupid, getting food everywhere. Vivi's movement stopped. The Duke's gaze also sharpened. Instantly, the air froze like ice. Vivi thought she had embarrassed herself and father was angry, so she offered him a plate of steak to appease him, thinking that eating something delicious might make his anger subside. But father took the knife from her hand. "Do you mean you want me to feed you?" Then he cut a piece and fed it to his daughter, gently asking, "Would you like something else?" The chubby boy continued courting death. Haha, I could feed myself at this age. Fortunately, this time his mother covered his mouth. The Baron beside them spoke up, saying he had come this time, actually wanting to borrow money from his brother, but the Duke wasn't foolish either. They came and immediately belittled his precious daughter, then wanted to borrow money, not a chance. But while speaking, Vivi, who was drinking tea, suddenly flung her cup. Then she gasped for breath, accompanied by violent coughing. The Duke immediately panicked. Before losing consciousness, Vivi saw the Baron and his wife's smiles. Could they have poisoned the food? After a long time had passed, feeling teardrops, Vivi slowly opened her eyes. Father held up a finger. "How many is this? What's your name? Who am I? How many apple pies did you eat today?" Seeing his daughter answer everything correctly, he finally relaxed, holding her and patting gently. Only then did Vivi notice a crowd of people standing by the bed. "Father, why are those people—" The Duke held her, speaking words cold and merciless. "Drag them all out and deal with them." It turned out the Baron and his wife hadn't poisoned anything. Vivi was allergic to grapefruit. After drinking 2 large cups of grapefruit tea at the dinner table, she had gone into anaphylactic shock, seeing father angrily wanting to kill everyone. Vivi didn't want so many innocent lives lost because of her gluttony. After all, she hadn't even known she was allergic to grapefruit. Initially, the Duke disagreed with her plea for mercy. This time, he had nearly lost her, but he couldn't withstand his daughter's theatrical pleading. "One sentence of father is the best. A father who kills is bad," made the old father surrender. However, through this incident, Vivi realized how important she was. In father's heart, she felt even more that she should do something for father. But this day, while she was sunbathing on the lawn, suddenly Magina approached, wanting to invite her for a walk. "In a few days, our family will be leaving. I want to leave beautiful memories with you." Born into nobility, she looked down on her own family and parents, believing that staying with them had no future. So taking advantage of this visit to her ducal uncle's house, she hatched a plan to remain behind. First, she invited the Duke's daughter for a walk, hoping to grow closer through this. Along the way, she asked tentatively, "I've always hoped to have a younger sister. What do you think about having an older sister?" Vivi replied, "It's all right, I suppose." Magina immediately became excited and shouted, "I didn't expect it would be so easy to convince you." Then she grabbed Vivi's hand. "Then from today, we're sisters." Vivi was confused, thinking, what kind of act was this person putting on? At this point, Magina took charge, saying she knew her sister had previously encountered a bad wet nurse and hadn't been able to study etiquette properly, that she would teach her well from now on. This time, Vivi understood. She brushed off the other's hand. "I don't think that's necessary. How I am has nothing to do with you. And we don't have any intimate relationship either." With that, she turned and strode away. Magina behind her immediately changed her expression, accompanied by shrill screaming. She took a fake fall on level ground and began crying. "Even if you don't like me, you can't push me." This was coincidentally witnessed by her father passing by. Seeing his daughter on the ground, he quickly embraced her and angrily scolded Vivi. "What are you doing? You actually pushed Magina down." Startled Vivi stepped backward and accidentally stepped on someone. Looking up, it was father. She finally understood. So they had set a trap here waiting for her. Just as the Duke began to ask his daughter what had happened, pairs of large eyes flashed in the bushes. Then two people popped out. "The young miss has been wronged. That young lady fell down by herself. We saw it clearly with our 4 eyes. She's completely lying." Seeing the tide turning against them, Magina immediately got up again, explaining that because Vivi said she didn't want to be close to her, she mistakenly thought Vivi had pushed her. "It seems I misunderstood you. I sincerely apologize to you. I'm sorry." With such ability to yield in advance, she was destined for great things. Vivi sighed. She could see through the girl's tricks, but she couldn't be bothered to deal with it. The Duke asked them irritably, "What are you doing here instead of working?" The two men held up love number plates. "We're members of the guard squad. Our mission is to protect the young miss." The Duke was immediately overwhelmed, picked up his daughter and ran. Now there were more and more people coveting his precious one. But building houses requires soil, at least it should be loam. Only then could adobe houses be constructed. As for why she suddenly wanted to give the wet nurse a house, it was because Vivi had learned that before she died, the emperor of that time had ordered all architects to be killed, resulting in all buildings being dangerous structures 100 years later. During rainy weather, houses would collapse. The wet nurse and another maid had left one after another, because their family homes had been destroyed and relatives crushed, so she had this idea. Perhaps it could help father in the future too. She only needed to design well, find loam, mix the right proportions for solidification, and finally figure out how to ask father for some money. Then there should be no problem. But she never expected to be stumped at the first hurdle. This day, as usual, she was having breakfast with father, when father pulled out a necklace from his chest. "This will be yours for a short time. She's called the Elf's Protection, a sacred relic. Every sacred relic contains invincible power. I obtained this for you from the administrator. When I'm not around, it can protect you in my place." Vivi gripped the necklace tightly. In her first life, she was abandoned by her parents. In her second life, she was still sold by her parents to others. Meeting father in this life was truly wonderful. At this time, father told her there was a wind elf inside the sacred relic, asking her to try summoning it. Then a fierce wind struck, and when Vivi opened her eyes again, she saw a little elf fluttering its wings, looking at her with a beaming smile. Vivi was delighted. The key point being, this was a gift from father. She wanted to flatter him properly and express her thanks. But then came gurgling sounds. Her stomach voiced its protest. The girl discovered her ring could grant wishes when she had finished eating and was digesting in her room. The little chubby boy came in looking for trouble. "This place isn't much either." She asked him what he wanted. The chubby boy spoke arrogantly. "As the future heir of the Duke, I'm inspecting the place that will soon become my home." "Do you have any problem with that?" Vivi reminded him. "I'm the daughter of Duke Andante." "Okay." But the other party put his hands on his hips. "Do you think the Duke would designate a person like you, who killed her mother, as heir?" "Dream on!" Vivi's anger flared. "You'd better get out before I bury you." The boy swung his fist to strike. Suddenly, a pair of hands grabbed him. It was her scheming sister. Magina apologized to the girl on one hand, while scolding her brother that he couldn't do this. After they left, Vivi was still fuming before bed, feeling she hadn't performed well. These siblings definitely had no good intentions. She really wanted to grow up quickly. As a result, when she opened her eyes, she had become an adult again. Remembering she had the elf's protection, she immediately summoned the wind elf to help her fly out of the Duke's mansion. Actually, after learning that the wet nurse and others' houses had collapsed, Vivi had always wanted to go see, so she could help build new houses. But when she actually arrived and was examining the walls, she suddenly noticed something wrong with her ring. The color seemed to have changed. Just as she was pondering this, the house began collapsing for a second time. Vivi quickly prepared to return home. But before leaving, she conducted an experiment. Wishing to the ring, "I want to become a child again." The next day, she woke up from bed in the appearance of a 3-year-old. Seeing that overnight she could freely grow larger and smaller, she was extremely happy, confirming the ring was also a sacred relic. Now with the ring to grow larger, and the elf to fight, she was completely capable of building houses, so she planned to go to the courtyard to ask the gardener about loam, but she wasn't paying attention. And the necklace in her hand also dropped to the ground. The maid hurriedly asked if she was all right, rather than the pain. Her first concern was picking up the necklace. But back in her room, after changing clothes, not only had the necklace changed color, it could no longer summon the wind elf. She was father's precious little treasure, but now she was crying with tears streaming down. "This time father will definitely kill me." But she still had the maid take her to find father. and when she actually saw him, she remained silent for a long time, before gathering courage to explain what had happened. "Yesterday I fell in the courtyard, and I seem to have broken the necklace you gave me. The elf inside won't come out no matter how I call." After speaking, Vivi waited for father to get angry, though the maid comforted her, saying the Duke loved her so much that even if she made mistakes, he would forgive her. Vivi didn't believe it. This was a sacred relic father had obtained from another family. It might even cause disputes between two families. In the face of interests and losses, even family members were useless. But after waiting a long while, "Are you hurt anywhere?" Father didn't ask a single question about the necklace. Instead, he was entirely concerned about her injuries. This made Vivi feel even worse inside. She would rather father scold her. At this moment, the Duke also revealed his secret. He was actually quite useless. It took him nearly 3 years to eliminate the monsters. This led to his wife giving birth. Without him by her side, he couldn't even see her one last time. Even when his daughter was left in the imperial capital, during that hellish period of abuse, it was all because he failed to appear in time. Upon hearing this, Vivi immediately refuted that it wasn't father's fault. Besides, these two matters were of different nature. Her actions might very well bring trouble to father. Before she could finish speaking, the Duke interrupted her. "It's not your fault no matter what, and if something really happens, I'll take responsibility, you don't need to worry." Seeing his daughter's emotions stabilize somewhat, he took the opportunity to tease. "You look like an axolotl when you pout." Suddenly there was a knock at the door. The lemon cake the Duke specially prepared for his daughter was ready. Watching Vivi eat with such happiness, he also handed her warm milk. "Eat slowly, you might choke." Then he found a book about the Elf King's stories, had the maid go back and read it to his daughter, to help her learn more about elves. This moved Vivi so much that she gave him a big kiss. Father also asked if she had been wanting yellow soil recently. Vivi was very surprised, wondering how father knew about this. The Duke smiled dotingly. "The entire ducal territory belongs to me. From now on, tell me whatever you want." Thinking that the yellow soil problem was solved, she could build a house for the wet nurse. She skipped with joy, but accidentally encountered the Baroness around the corner. Vivi wanted to hide. She didn't want to meet with bad people. However, the woman also saw her. "Oh, isn't this Vivi? Our Euston has been practicing swordsmanship since dawn." "Sigh, you're not slacking off, are you? This won't make you a suitable heir." With no one around, she spoke without restraint. Vivi didn't indulge her either. She told everything about how the little fatty rudely barged into her room last night, and spoke nonsense and passed gas. The woman was furious that her precious son was being despised. "You thing without even a mother. If you still want to keep your little life, you better be careful." But her threat played right into Vivi's hands. She suddenly performed a fake fall on flat ground, then cried out loudly, asking father for money. "I really can't do it. It's my fault." The woman's hand that was about to strike stopped. She was stunned, but then a voice came from behind. "What are you doing to the young lady?" At this time, the maid also ran over. Vivi immediately cried even louder. "I'm so scared. I want to go somewhere else." Now the woman was at a loss for words. Watching her being taken away, Vivi's eyes revealed a smile. "I just did the same thing as your daughter." On the other side, to please his daughter, father gave her a dirt mountain. Looking at the 3-story-high yellow soil in front of her, Vivi felt heartbroken. How much money must this have cost? She just wanted to do a simple test. Father was too extravagant. At this time, the maid told her. Tonight's snack would be chocolate puffs. Vivi was immediately full of energy alright after testing the yellow soil. She'd go eat 5, 6, 7, or 8 puffs. However, after 3 hours passed, she discovered that soil and water couldn't mix at all. Then this soil couldn't be used to build houses, could it? Vivi threw down her small shovel and squatted to the side in dejection. As someone who had been reborn from her old home Earth, she was completely unfamiliar with the properties of this soil. What could she do without soil? She took out the necklace father gave her. Previously, she had a little elf to consult with, but now it was also broken. Suddenly, Vivi looked at the necklace and noticed something wrong. The elf summoned by this gem was called Hilp. Then why wasn't it called Hilp's Protection, but rather called Elf's Protection? Could it be that other elves lived inside as well? If this was truly the case, then the change in the gem's color might not be because it was broken, but because its attributes had changed. Thinking it through this way, Vivi found it quite reasonable. What was the Earth Elf called again? Recalling the Elf King storybook father had given her, she suddenly shouted loudly, "Earth Elf King Terra, appear!" But 3 seconds passed and nothing appeared. Vivi sighed. Indeed, everything just now was her wild imagination. Besides, she should have no magical power, so how could she? Before she could react, the gem on the necklace suddenly radiated golden light. Then a girl with brown hair in an earth yellow dress appeared. "I am Earth Elf King Terra. What is the reason you have summoned me?" Vivi was stunned. She hadn't expected to actually summon an elf king. However, she seized the opportunity to ask urgently, "Is there any kind of soil that becomes sticky and gooey when first mixed with water, but becomes hard and solid when dried? Very difficult to destroy?" Terra smiled slightly. There are 3 types of soil that meet these conditions. The matter of soil finally had a breakthrough. That evening, Vivi devoured 2 extra bowls of rice. Only after she finished eating did the maid hand her a letter. The letter read, "Hello Vivi, I am Magina. Would you like to have afternoon tea together tomorrow? I have some heartfelt words I want to share with you." This girl was remarkable. To live a good life for herself, she directly sold out her parents. At this time, she tearfully found the little girl, crying and asking if she could stay at the Duke's mansion for a longer period. "Many people don't like me. I don't know why either. I've clearly been trying hard to be good to them. But I think you're special. You wouldn't dislike me, would you?" Such a sharp question made the little girl, who was thin-skinned, too embarrassed to tell the truth, but just thinking with her toes, speaking harsh words to Vivi upon first meeting, then later fake falling to frame Vivi. Any normal person would dislike her, so Vivi comforted her not to cry, while saying staying at the Duke's mansion was impossible. She didn't want to trouble father over such a small matter. Instantly, Magina cried even louder, beginning to play the victim, saying she was often abused at home. "Don't you worry about me at all?" Just as Vivi was about to collapse from being pestered, the maid's voice came from behind, saying the lemon cake was ready. Vivi instantly saw it as a lifeline. Before leaving, she didn't forget to encourage Magina. "You must hang in there." Walking back to her room, Vivi made a firm resolution. Next time she absolutely couldn't meet with Magina out of curiosity. Their family was definitely coveting the Duke's position. "I must help father protect it well." Thinking this way, she unconsciously walked to father's study, knocked on the door. She wanted to dine with father. "You said before that I should tell you whatever I want. I've decided what I want for my 3rd birthday gift." The man was startled. He asked his daughter what it was. Vivi carefully said, "Money." But father was very generous. "How much do you want?" Now Vivi's voice became even more timid. "As much as father's love for me." These words made the man sigh helplessly. His daughter had grown up and would even act coquettishly when asking for money. Nevertheless, he called for an attendant to deliver all the compensation money from monster subjugation to the young lady's room tomorrow. 30 billion should be enough to satisfy my daughter. If it's not enough, tell me again. This was merely an appetizer. He still had big gifts to give his precious daughter. As a belated birthday present, Vivi hadn't expected father to be so generous. She also became determined not to disappoint father's love. That night, the little girl, who was still 3 in the morning, instantly transformed from small to large, becoming 18. Ever since learning about the ring's magical power to grow and shrink, she had become increasingly skilled at switching. Then she went to the labor guild, which was the talent market, planning to hire several workers to help her prepare materials for building houses first. You go chop trees, you go find straw, you go find monster hides. With these, she would have the soul of adobe houses. And Vivi's persistence in building houses was not only to provide the wet nurse whose house had collapsed with a temporary dwelling. She also wanted to gradually progress from adobe houses to buildings and then to large villas. Originally, in her previous 2 lives, she had been an architect. If she could apply this knowledge to 100 years later today, perhaps she could help father better develop the territory, preventing dangerous buildings from collapsing due to severe weather and injuring the territory's people. After arranging those people, Vivi took out the necklace father gave her. Recently, she had also figured out the mystery within. After summoning the Earth Elf King last time, she learned that this actually contained 4 elf kings of wind, fire, water, and earth. What was unexpected was, she, who had no magical power whatsoever, could actually summon all the elf kings at will, without signing any contracts, and became good friends with them. With the elf king's assistance, her house progressed rapidly day by day. But the continuous running between 2 places exhausted her. This day she was sleeping in. The maid came to urge her, "Miss, please get up quickly. You need to have lunch with the Baron couple at noon. They're about to leave. We can't be late." At this time, the Baron's family at the dining table had long been waiting impatiently. Because there were no adults around, the little girl was bullied by a group of people. They were father's relatives, but had always been thinking about how to steal father's wealth. The little girl was indignant. Facing their mockery, she retorted with a few words. Who knew the woman would actually stand up, wanting to strike? Fortunately, father arrived at this moment. Vivi looked at them and didn't make a scene about what just happened. Hurry up and eat, then leave quickly. Anyway, they were leaving today. Suddenly she glimpsed a cup. The orange juice inside looked very delicious, and noticing her gaze, before she could move, father picked up the cup. "I'll hold it for you. I'll feed you. Your little hands can't handle it." Vivi was almost overwhelmed by this overflowing paternal love. Although she really wanted father to be more restrained, she still obediently brought her mouth closer. Under father's unwavering gaze, she finished a large cup of freshly squeezed orange juice. The Baron's family nearby were all stunned. Is he really this doting? Seeing everyone staring at his precious daughter drinking, the Duke's eyes turned cold, asking the Baron if there was some problem. The Baron quickly shook his head, then nodded. "Brother, about borrowing money." Upon hearing this, the Duke immediately interrupted. Seeing that asking for money directly didn't work, the Baron devised a plan. Tearfully expressing that he wasn't having it easy either, the children were grown. They wouldn't have money for school. The man intended to use emotional manipulation. But unexpectedly, Magina suddenly spoke up. "I don't want to go to the academy. I'd rather become a maid in the ducal city. I like Vivi, so I want to stay by her side." Actually, Magina had long seen through the situation. Staying with their family offered no prospects. Only by remaining in the ducal city would she have a future. After speaking, she asked Vivi, "You also said I was very good, didn't you?" Before his daughter could speak, the Duke's expression darkened. "I won't entrust my daughter to unprofessional people." He generously covered all of Magina's future tuition fees. But borrowing money was non-negotiable. At this time, the butler approached. The second birthday gift the Duke father prepared for his daughter had already arrived. A limited edition Maserati carriage. Others boasted that their family carriage was made of gold. The daughter-obsessed father immediately had someone custom make a Maserati carriage, with accessories made entirely of red diamonds. One red diamond was worth 10 billion. Looking at the priceless carriage, Vivi didn't really understand its value. She just widened her eyes. The guards nearby all took out cameras to photograph. Which boy doesn't have a Maserati dream? Indeed, the little fatty who had previously boasted about his family's carriage looked very unhappy. This family finally left, and father not only custom-made the carriage, but also had the chef make matching carriage cookies for his daughter. Carriage sculptures, and carriage cuisine, perfectly demonstrating that having money means being extravagant. Riding in a Maserati for the first time, Vivi was first surprised. The car door actually opened automatically. Then she marveled. This is really comfortable to ride in, but with father being so generous, she was very worried, concerned that her money-spending father might squander the family fortune again. At this moment, the Duke smiled slightly. "As long as you like it, I'll even pluck the stars for you." After that, Vivi began a life of being held by daddy during the day, building houses at night, running between both sides. Meanwhile, the little boy she had once saved, because the cursed magic power in his body was too strong, was moved from the Duke's castle to another place. His existence could be said to be the future of the nation, or it might bring destruction, so there were many who wanted to obtain him without letting him awaken. At this moment, he himself seemed to be trapped in a realm of darkness, unable to find any light, until a pair of hands appeared. "Nice to meet you, corpse. My name is Vivi. If we can get out of here, I'll buy you lots of delicious food." But after saying this, the girl turned around to leave. This was the first time he felt warmth. "Don't go, don't abandon me like this," with a strong desire to see her again. The boy who had been sleeping all along awakened. Looking at the unfamiliar people surrounding him in a circle, he asked warily, "Who are you?" On the other side, the girl called out to the earth spirit Terra through her necklace, hoping she would help dig a 3-story high underground chamber. Terra cast her magic without hesitation, accompanied by a thunderous roar. An underground chamber was easily completed. Vivi was very satisfied with this place. She rolled up her sleeves ready to start working, but was stopped by Terra, who suggested, "Why don't you try summoning the other spirit kings? Probably because I was the first to descend into the mortal world. They are all very curious about you." But the young girl felt somewhat embarrassed, declining that she didn't need the other spirit kings for now. However, seeing that Terra seemed quite troubled, and hearing that gathering all the spirit kings would allow her to use their power without being limited by sacred objects, Vivi simply invited all 3 other spirit kings to appear. They were respectively the omnipresent water spirit king, the passionate fire spirit king, and the energetic wind spirit king. Looking at all the spirit kings gathered before her, chattering away with their various comments, Vivi showed a troubled expression and told them she was truly sorry. "As soon as you start talking, my head hurts terribly." Upon hearing this, the 3 spirit kings all fell silent, having no choice but to apologize to Vivi temporarily. Afterward, Vivi used Hilp's power to find the pipeline worker to whom she had previously consigned her dagger, boldly prepaying 500 gold, wanting the other party to help with a special project, as long as the water storage device was placed higher than the houses. Then, even without advanced technology, it could meet the daily water needs of the people. Moreover, this project had to begin construction immediately. She needed to hurry and complete it within 3 weeks, because the next morning, a maid told her the wet nurse and another maid would return soon. They had written expressing concern that after not seeing her for so long, Vivi might forget them. How could that be possible? Vivi immediately grasped the maid's hand and said earnestly, "You are now a very important person to me. Didn't we promise to share delicious food together for life?" It was precisely because of Vivi's love for everyone around her that everyone could always feel her warmth. The maid couldn't help but embrace Vivi. Being your maid is truly so fortunate. But unexpectedly, just after the maid left, several uninvited guests came to Vivi's room. "We found a way to solve your headaches." On the other side, Daddy found Vivi, suddenly telling her he had found her a tutor. This person, though connected to famous merchant guilds, was also a schemer who liked to play crooked tricks if he hadn't deceived a noble this time, bringing shame to the Duke's family. He wouldn't have been punished by being made the young lady's tutor. But the night before classes began, Daddy told Vivi, "Although this man is cunning and scheming, he is a talented person. You can learn many things from him. Though he is loyal to the Duke's family, he loves to curry favor with superiors and bully inferiors, often bullying and suppressing those less clever than him." Despite this, Daddy still hoped she could conceal the fact that she was a genius. She must not let him see those formulas. Sure enough, on the first day of class, Baldric gave Vivi a show of force, assigning her a topic as a placement test. Although Vivi disliked his bullying demeanor, she remembered Daddy's words and deliberately showed weakness before the teacher. While preparing for the assignment, Vivi secretly worked on the house construction every night. Everything proceeded in an orderly fashion, but she always felt she had forgotten something. Only then did she remember the topic Baldric had assigned. She only recalled that day he wanted her to find a way to turn 1 gold coin into 1,000 gold coins. This was clearly not wanting to teach a 3-year-old child. Actually, even if he refused to teach her, it wouldn't matter. She would rather return to her previous carefree state of eating, drinking, and playing. But this time, she didn't want to disappoint Daddy. So she specifically prepared in advance, and on the day of class, Duke His Highness unusually came to observe his daughter's lesson. This suited Baldric's intentions perfectly. He guessed that Miss Vivi surely couldn't complete the assignment. He could take the opportunity to tell everyone. The young lady was too small to receive education. But unexpectedly, Vivi came prepared, not only considering the time dimension but also feasibility, proposing 2 solutions, hoarding grain and buying lottery tickets. But neither met the teacher's requirement of efficiency. Finally, the answer she gave was actually to jump onto the Duke, acting coquettishly asking Daddy to solve it. Daddy was her greatest confidence. With the spirit's help, Vivi not only finished laying the rain-proof goblin leather, but also developed tile-making techniques. However, all of this had to be kept secret from the maid. Regarding her recent increased appetite and sleepiness, Vivi could only lie that it was because she had entered hibernation. The maid also noticed the young lady had been eating quite a lot lately, but sleeping right after eating wasn't good for digestion, so she suggested drinking some vinegar. That stuff tasted terrible. Vivi had to suggest taking a walk in the corridor instead. When passing by the window, she unexpectedly discovered, although she could tell from the sounds that it was very cold outside, the corridor was quite warm. The maid told her it was because the Duke's castle was enchanted, achieving warmth in winter and coolness in summer. No wonder Vivi had been walking around in house clothes, without feeling cold at all. Andante truly deserved to be one of the 3 great ducal families developing magical tools. If only the people outside the castle could also feel this warmth. Suddenly, intense arguing came from the distance. Curious Vivi couldn't help but peek, discovering it was actually Baldric and the retainer Mr. Jaren. What was excessive was that when Jaren got impatient, he actually dared to spit in the corridor. As a noble, this violated the most basic etiquette. It seems I must tell Daddy about their previous meeting, completely forgetting they were now eavesdropping, seeing Baldric about to walk toward their direction. At the critical moment, the maid picked up Vivi and cast an invisibility spell, fortunately avoiding disaster. Although the maid knew they had always been at odds, she hadn't expected them to actually argue in the Duke's mansion. Smelling new gossip, Vivi naturally couldn't let it pass. Pestering the maid to tell her, it turned out that 4 years ago, Baldric had swindled away half of Jaren's family fortune, even mocking him. "Someone bestial like you. What use is money to you anyway?" Vivi hadn't expected that even after such an incident, Baldric could still work under Daddy, but she thought again that keeping this person until now, there must be Daddy's reason, since the quarrel was with Baron Jaren. She would pretend not to have seen it for now. After all, he was very likely one of Baron Adagio's people. Thinking that in a few days would be an important day, she had to sleep early and gather energy to complete it. Soon after, the house was officially completed. Looking at the brand new 2-story building before her, she thought it was truly beautiful, although it took some time. She finally finished before the wet nurse returned. Just as she was about to leave, Vivi encountered Uncle Erickson. He saw the birth of a new house for the first time, so excited he was moved to tears. So the architect lady hadn't lied. She really knew how to build houses, ever since 100 years ago when a certain tyrant had all architects executed. Materials related to construction vanished completely. People were even afraid to build their own houses out of fear. But now with Vivi, this genius architect, she took out the house blueprints she had prepared long ago, placing them inside the house. As long as this letter and blueprints could reach Daddy's hands, then those homeless people could also build safe houses. The next morning, Vivi rarely slept until she woke naturally. The maid surprisingly hadn't called her to get up. After inquiring, she learned that something big had happened in the Duke's territory. It was said that on the wet nurse's family's homestead, a beautiful new house had suddenly appeared. Hearing everyone describe her achievement this way, Vivi couldn't help but smile secretly. If there were no problems, this house should become the wet nurse's new home. For this, Vivi specifically came to find Daddy for confirmation, worried about exposing her identity. At first, Vivi only dared to inquire about news of the new house. Learning that Daddy was still investigating how the house came to be, she carefully asked, "After the investigation ends, this house will belong to the wet nurse, right?" She actually received a negative answer. The wet nurse temporarily couldn't move in yet. Vivi was immediately startled. Why couldn't she move in? Fortunately, Daddy only said the house had no furniture inside. The wet nurse's family couldn't possibly live there sleeping on the floor. Only then did Vivi feel relieved. How could she have forgotten the furniture? Taking this opportunity, Vivi actively proposed. She wanted to buy furniture as a gift for the wet nurse. The Duke smiled slightly, thinking this was a good idea. Moreover, his precious daughter knew gratitude at such a young age. Truly a kind child. But before leaving, Daddy still told her some bad news. Baldric seemed to have already noticed your exceptional intelligence. Because Baldric not only came to the Duke to fish for information, but also gave her a particularly difficult new assignment about the goblin leather stockpiling problem within the kingdom of Ibriton, requiring a solution. This was clearly not a topic a 3-year-old could discuss, because goblin leather was originally material used in the construction industry. In this kingdom where no new buildings had been constructed for 100 years, people had very little demand for it. Vivi pondered hard but couldn't think of a good solution. But unexpectedly, the answer soon came to her. Daddy quickly arranged for her to meet with furniture craftsmen. Vivi took out the furniture design she had drawn earlier. Although the drawing style was more than a little rough, at least the general shapes could be discerned. But when hearing that Vivi hoped all furniture would be made of leather, the craftsman was troubled. Although leather furniture is high-end and durable, recently it had become very difficult to find leather suitable for making sofas. Ever since our country and the Kingdom of Eve, which exports sofa leather, severed trade relations, the leather sold in the market decreased dramatically. If shipped from the capital, it would take 3 months. Plus, leather sofas would be dirty-prone and difficult to maintain. Vivi suddenly thought of perfectly suitable material, suggesting to the craftsman, "How about you try using goblin leather meant for construction? To make sofas, goblin leather is not only waterproof, but also durable and affordable. If this could be done, the furniture industry would surely develop greatly." Incidentally, Vivi felt her assignment had also been solved. Using this method should be sufficient to solve the goblin leather stockpiling problem. But she always felt this alone was somewhat insufficient. She also unexpectedly learned that the kingdom of Schlazerl was an island nation with frequent rain. This information would surely be very useful. Soon came the Great Council meeting a few days later. Today was the day to make decisions about house construction. Vivi prepared to use the knowledge she had learned these past days to make a great showing at the meeting. On the other side, regarding the sudden appearance of a new house, complete with blueprints inside, everyone was actually worried these plans might be fraudulent, although the blueprints looked very perfect, and the prices marked were very affordable. The various ministers in the Duke's castle still argued incessantly. Housing problems were a major trouble for Ibriton. Refugees who lost their homes banded together into bandit groups, causing considerable losses to merchant guilds. Although no one knew where these blueprints came from, according to public opinion surveys, residents all looked forward to being able to build their own houses. For this, the Duke proposed first building 3 trial locations, but everyone began debating again about where would be best for the pilot program. At this moment, the meeting room doors were suddenly pushed open. Vivi walked in carrying a basket of cookies. "Daddy, these are cookies I made. Please enjoy them while they're hot." At this time, someone reminded the young lady they were in a meeting. But to ensure the house-building matter would be finalized, Vivi decided to go all out. She put on an innocent expression and asked Daddy, "Did I disturb you all? I was afraid everyone would be hungry during the meeting, so I brought these over." Upon hearing this, the Duke's face instantly darkened. "How dare you glare at my daughter?" Everyone immediately fell silent. Turning back, the Duke immediately changed his expression. "Don't worry, you didn't disturb us." After speaking, the Duke lifted Vivi onto his lap and began continuing the discussion about house construction personnel arrangements. But everyone was stuck on the problem. If all soldiers went to build houses, who would protect the Duke's castle? Vivi hadn't expected these adults to be like her, completely lacking flexibility. Vivi couldn't bear to watch and decided to take control of this meeting. She turned and asked Daddy, "Can this house building work only be done by the knight uncles?" "Not necessarily, but this work is very hard. So many people are needed to quickly gather manpower. That's why knights were arranged to go," Vivi said puzzledly. "Then why not hire those unemployed uncles?" "Recently I've learned something about goblin leather. I heard that goblin hunters are facing serious unemployment problems. So why not let those very strong hunter uncles build houses for you?" After solving this problem regarding the second assignment Baldric had given, namely how to solve the goblin leather stockpiling problem, this was clearly not a topic prepared for a 3-year-old. But coincidentally, when Vivi was ordering furniture, she learned that goblin leather's properties could be used to make furniture, and also learned that a certain island nation had constant rain, giving her inspiration. The next day, she applied to her father for permission to leave the palace. After much coaxing, father finally agreed. Only if accompanied by a maid and 3 bodyguards could she go out. They first went to the wet nurse's house. All along the way, hearing common people discussing building new houses, it seemed everyone was looking forward to living in new houses. Seeing the village full of vitality, Vivi felt deeply comforted. She came before the wet nurse's house. Although this was a house she had built with her own hands, it was also the first time seeing it during the day. She couldn't help wanting to exclaim how beautiful it was. The house was filled with countless people coming to visit. Before the wet nurse returned, this place was open for tours. The interior of the house was completely furnished, from furniture to washing utensils. Everything was complete. After simply viewing the house, Vivi rushed to the market. She discovered the maid's clothes were already tattered, specifically entering a dress shop, pretending to be a child shopping with her sister. She selected a dress as a gift for her. Although the maid repeatedly declined, she still couldn't resist the persuasive shop owner. How could she refuse her thoughtful sister's kind gesture? Then she was pushed into the fitting room. While the maid was trying on clothes, Vivi asked the owner if any material could be made into clothing. After receiving a positive reply, she made an unreasonable request. So in the next day's classroom, regarding the malicious stockpiling problem of goblin leather, Vivi brought out her secret weapon and commissioned the dress shop owner to deliver it to the scene. Those were raincoats and rain boots for wearing in the rain. Vivi discovered goblin leather was very waterproof, so she utilized this property to make raincoats. Moreover, Vivi had done market research. They could use the kingdom of Schlazrel as a pilot, because this place had constant rain, yet lacked perfectly waterproof methods. Vivi even proposed that to truly solve the problem, they couldn't give up on markets in other countries. These words left Baldric stunned. He immediately knelt down and kowtowed to Vivi. "Please accept me as your disciple." Afterward, Baldric mysteriously told her a matter concerning the family's survival in Ibriton. Cases of women becoming family heads were very rare. When Vivi grew a bit older, there would surely be people wanting to support young Master Adagio for succession. Therefore, for Vivi to win in this struggle, she had to start gathering emergency funds from now. But she was only 3 years old, wasn't it too early? Baldric shook his head, though the Duke's family had many assets. If such enormous wealth fell into enemy hands, it would bring her tremendous threats. Moreover, no one knew when enemies might strike. After listening to this, Vivi carefully considered and found it quite reasonable, as their peaceful life could be disrupted at any moment. Vivi asked Baldric in return, "Then what can you help me with?" Baldric prided himself on being a shrewd businessman, and a merchant's strength lies in predicting various changes. "So, can you help me establish a trading company? I must make a profit through raincoats and rain boots." Baldric immediately knelt down and expressed his willingness to serve. "From now on, I entrust myself to the young lady's care." 3 years passed in the blink of an eye. Vivi was about to celebrate her 7th birthday. The nanny combed her hair while marveling. Time flies so fast, she has grown from that frail child into such an elegant and lovely girl. Vivi had not been idle during these years. At age 3, she co-founded the Elahira Trading Company with Baldric. Now this secretly established trading company has firmly established itself in the kingdom of Schlazr. The company has been continuously exporting raincoats and rain boots to countries worldwide. Besides this, Vivi has not neglected matters concerning construction. On this day, Baldric announced that all courses had concluded. She could now participate in social gatherings. Though Baldric was reluctant to part, Vivi still had important tasks to entrust to him. "We should now begin other ventures, shouldn't we?" Over the past 3 years, the Duke has been conducting housing construction projects. In the future, the scope of construction should expand nationwide. Father intends to make the house design plans public, allowing the perceptive Vivi to quickly seize the business opportunity. She asked Baldric, "If you wanted to utilize this intelligence to get ahead of others, where would you start?" "I would recruit the blacksmith Erickson and his apprentices entirely." Vivi nodded but asked if he had any better methods. She hinted that after houses are built, they would certainly need furniture. When the housing construction first began, there was insufficient furniture supply, causing people to wait in line for several months. Baldric proposed recruiting furniture craftsmen, which made Vivi sigh helplessly. She pointed out that domestic furniture materials are extremely scarce. Without materials, no amount of craftsmen would be useful. Baldric acknowledged he had learned something new. Vivi decided to personally visit furniture stores for investigation, and arranged for Baldric to research the quantity of materials used within the Duke's territory over the past 3 years. Then help her order 10 times that amount. Baldric was shocked and confirmed that would be an enormous quantity. But isn't the national population less than 10 times that of the Duke's territory? Fortunately, they could store the materials in the trading company's warehouse. But Vivi objected again, saying that wouldn't work. The warehouse must reserve some vacant space. Vivi did not elaborate on this point, only instructing him to prepare these things properly. Afterward, she still needed to attend etiquette classes. Elisa would serve as her etiquette instructor, responsible for teaching her the knowledge needed in social gatherings. In some time, she would visit Count Iret's estate, where a social gathering would be held as her debut. So she must master etiquette and not embarrass herself. But what troubled her most at the moment was that Love Day was approaching again. Last year, due to momentary oversight, she failed to prepare a gift for father, causing him to be unhappy for quite some time. She thought she could slack off this year since he wasn't in the capital. But unexpectedly, a maid soon delivered an envelope indicating father would return soon. To please her father, at 7 years old, she worked through the night crafting Valentine's Day gifts and prepared one for father as well. The next morning, she mysteriously told the maid, "Go open the drawer beside my bed and take a look. I placed Valentine's Day commemorative gifts inside." The maids immediately went to check, and were all pleasantly surprised. Even Baldric received one, so delicious it moved him to tears. After distributing gifts to the maids and Baldric, Vivi rushed straight to father's room, pushed open the door and threw herself into father's embrace. The father and daughter hadn't seen each other for a month. Father's first words were an apology. "I returned late." Though father's expression remained as cold as ever, Vivi knew father was the type who appeared cold but was warm inside. She happily told him she had prepared a gift for him, then presented her masterpiece. This was the Valentine's Day gift she had crafted by hand. Upon opening, it revealed uniquely shaped chocolate. Vivi told him these were cookie sticks. Because of their elongated shape, they're also called finger cookies. Vivi had specially coated the surface with dark chocolate. Father couldn't help but be moved. His precious daughter was clearly doing this for the first time, yet managed to create something so delicious, truly an all-around genius. Fortunately, he had also prepared a return gift. As soon as he produced the box, Vivi's eyes widened. Then she worried that father had spent money recklessly again, because father's Valentine's Day gift to her was a diamond ring called Mermaid's Tear. Its value could purchase an entire magic stone mine, and this ring possessed strong magic enhancement effects. Though Vivi was grateful to father, she simultaneously realized how poor she was compared to the Duke's family. To prepare for future emergencies, she was working hard to accumulate emergency funds. So recently began operating furniture stores and other new businesses. But setting aside these psychological burdens, having a father who constantly considers her well-being, she was truly blessed. Father smiled and said, "You should be accustomed to this by now." After speaking, he personally placed the ring on his daughter's finger, reminding her that this ring was enchanted with protective magic. "You must wear it at all times. Whenever I think about you going to Count Iret's estate, I feel like someone is stealing my beloved away, so you must wear it to protect yourself." But in reality, Vivi would only be away for 1 month. Yet due to father's worry, he not only dispatched the knight commander and guard captain as escorts, but also cast defensive magic on the carriage, plus the protection of Mermaid's Tear. This was somewhat excessive concern. Father also established 3 rules with her. First, she would bring bodyguards wherever she went. Second, she would never do anything to worry father. Third, she must never smile at strangers. When encountering suspicious people approaching, she should sternly warn them, "If you don't want to lose your head, then disappear from my sight immediately." Vivi demonstrated once but was so adorable it made people want to commit crimes. It seemed this method wouldn't work. Vivi felt father was being somewhat overly worried. She acted coquettishly asking for a hug, then comforted him to ease his mind. "I'll return after 1 month." Seeing it was getting late, for safety reasons the knights forcibly separated father and daughter. Vivi bid farewell to father through the carriage window. "We'll meet again in 1 month." Though she knew 1 month wasn't particularly long, Vivi already missed him somewhat as the journey began. This trip would last 10 days. Vivi could only lie in the carriage compartment with nothing to do. On this day she was troubled by the problem of insufficient manpower for furniture material transport workers. Since this was her secretly established trading company, she dared not request support from father. Just as she was pondering where to find laborers, the carriage suddenly experienced violent shaking. Fortunately, with the Duke's Elven King's protection, she remained unharmed. At this moment, a knight came to warn Vivi. "Miss, you absolutely cannot leave the carriage. We have encountered bandits." It turned out a group of bandits lying in ambush at this location had spotted Vivi's luxurious carriage from afar, immediately swarmed forward intending to rob it. Fortunately, with knights and the commander escorting the convoy, the bandits were quickly subdued. The convoy suffered no damage. Vivi disembarked to inquire about these bandits' situation, learning that this group had also been forced to join the bandit gang due to having no means of earning money. "If you could give us one opportunity, we would certainly find legitimate work," the deputy leader Vincent explained. He had once been a hunter living in Duke Andante's territory, but had no income for several years and had to stop hunting. Afterward, his house collapsed and he became homeless. Could only wander about, then joined the bandit gang. engaging in illegitimate activities. He seemed to be another unfortunate soul she couldn't stand by and do nothing. You just said that if given an opportunity, you would find legitimate work, correct? The bandits immediately nodded frantically. There happens to be a place that needs you. Vivi waved her hand. You can work under me. For a term of 1 year, I'll provide food and lodging. Would you like to try working hard once? If you perform well, there will even be bonuses. The bandits began discussing among themselves. Thanking the young lady for sparing their lives and offering them work, she was like an angel. Vivi then continued traveling by carriage. Actually, the original intention of the trip was because her mother's family wanted to invite Vivi to visit. But at that time, Vivi was only 3 years old and too young. The Duke declined Count Irette's invitation and clarified Vivi's misunderstanding about the Count's family. The Count's family had not failed to seek her out. After Sienna's funeral, natural disasters occurred in Irette territory. They had been busy dealing with the aftermath. Upon hearing that the Duke's family had found you, the Count's family was extremely shocked and immediately planned to visit. But the Duke temporarily refused, using the reason that the child needed rest. Because at that time, the Duke feared Vivi might leave this family. The Irette Count family members treat each other very warmly. The family atmosphere is harmonious. This differs greatly from the Duke's family. Vivi immediately expressed that she absolutely loved the Duke's mansion, wanting to remain here for life, because everyone here treated her warmly. So they waited until Vivi turned 7, before the Duke resumed plans to visit Count Irette's estate. Visiting Mother's birthplace for the first time, Vivi was excited and looked around curiously. As soon as she stepped down from the carriage, she saw Uncle and Aunt coming to greet her. Though Vivi was visiting the Count's mansion for the first time, she felt exceptionally comfortable. The Count's family assigned head maid Dahlia to serve her. She had worked at the Count's estate for 40 years, had been Sienna's personal maid since she was 6 years old, was someone who watched her grow up. The room arranged for Vivi was also the room Sienna had once lived in. Seeing Vivi wearing Miss Sienna's ring on her hand, Dahlia felt she was seeing the young lady from childhood. You truly look exactly like Miss Sienna. Afterward, Dahlia told her many more stories from Mother's childhood. People at the Duke's mansion might worry she would be sad, so they never spoke to her about Mother. But as she grew older, she gradually began wanting to know more about Mother's past. After bathing and seeing it was still early, Vivi proactively suggested wanting to tour the Count's mansion. This place was also called Maple House. Every autumn the maple leaves here were exceptionally beautiful. Vivi also witnessed the Count's mansion's training grounds. At the Duke's mansion, due to father's overprotection, she had been forbidden from entering. This time, she could finally see knights training intensely, but unexpectedly encountered an old acquaintance here. During subsequent interactions, Vivi discovered Aunt was even kinder than she had imagined, so she asked Aunt to call her by her nickname directly, instantly making them much closer. At this moment, the Count coughed twice to interrupt them. Don't you still need to meet the lady who will become Vivi's senior female companion? A senior female companion refers to someone in high society who assumes a guardian role for underage noble young ladies. Aunt had previously mentioned in her letter that she would invite 3 candidates to the mansion. But at this moment she said, let's forget about today. It's Vivi's first day here, so let's keep things relaxed, right? Aunt winked at Vivi. She immediately understood. Never expected to have such gentle and caring relatives. Vivi suddenly remembered she had a task today. This was the elven blessing the Count had lent her 3 years ago. Vivi specifically brought it to return to its rightful owner. Thank you for making a difficult decision for me. Thanks to both of you, I've been safe all along. Vivi's thoughtfulness made Uncle and Aunt feel terribly guilty. As family members, they had previously failed to take good care of her. They had always been unable to let go of this. Vivi hadn't expected the atmosphere to become so sad, hurriedly comforted them, saying, "It's all right, you needn't mind. I'm fine now. And that wasn't your fault either." Though initially Vivi felt somewhat uncomfortable, as the conversation deepened, she gradually relaxed, even feeling regretful about not coming here earlier. The next day, Aunt found Vivi to discuss the senior female companion matter. She had previously mentioned 3 candidates in her letter, and decided to describe the 3 people's backgrounds in detail. The 2 chatted while eating. Vivi tasted the black tea before her, finding the flavor quite amazing. Immediately asked Aunt what kind of tea this was, learning this was Nibera tea, that had become popular in the capital several months ago. It was precisely the creation of candidate Countess Marlton, Vivi discovered. This tea tasted different from what she had first tried. Upon learning this tea was made from undried tea leaves, she was immediately greatly alarmed. According to her knowledge, Nibera tea leaves, if not properly dried, would produce trace amounts of toxins. Long-term consumption would have adverse effects on the human body. If this tea was indeed popular, wouldn't many people in the capital be facing danger? What were Countess Marlton's intentions? Why would she promote such dangerous tea? Realizing that behind the popularity of Nibera tea lay a massive conspiracy, Vivi immediately consulted Aunt, about more information regarding the senior female companion candidates. Learning that among the candidates, Countess Katrina came from a highly respected and historically prominent family, but she was extremely strict with everyone. Outsiders evaluated her as a very sharp person, so Aunt did not recommend choosing her as senior female companion. However, setting this matter aside, Aunt hoped Vivi could maintain some relationship with her, because she was knowledgeable, but in noble society. The social circle was their political arena. No one could ignore others' evaluations, so it was better not to consider this countess for now. The second candidate, Baroness Salopia, was of knight origin, had even achieved military merit. Despite being a woman, she had obtained a title. However, she had recently encountered some troubles. Reportedly, she had been continuously abusing Baron Salopia. The Baron therefore filed for divorce, and this case is currently still under trial. But in her aunt's eyes, she is definitely not that kind of person. Instead, she believes her husband is the real culprit. Although the Baroness overcame the limitations of being a woman and achieved great success, which is truly admirable, but before meeting her in person, Vivi still needs to consider carefully. Finally, there is the Countess of Marlton, recommended by her aunt. She excels at socializing and has extensive connections. Indeed, a decent choice. However, it's said she doesn't particularly like children. There are even rumors that this is why she chose not to have children. Vivi originally wanted to choose her as her elder female companion, but since she apparently dislikes children, this left her in a difficult position. On this day, Vivi planned to go mail a work-related letter. On the way, she used helping to mail letters as an excuse to dismiss her guard, taking this opportunity to visit the pharmacy, asking the owner whether Nobel tea made with undried tea leaves could be used for brewing tea to drink. After hearing this, the owner looked thoughtful and only asked her, "Do you have any adults around you who are preparing to have children?" Not really. In that case, there shouldn't be any problem. Previously, a noblewoman from a certain territory once used drinking Nobel tea for contraception. Upon learning this news, Vivi was greatly shocked. Does the Countess of Marlton know about this? In aristocratic society, the matter of heirs is a sensitive topic. Even if she dislikes children, she wouldn't harm others, would she? Soon after came Vivi's first debut at a social gathering. Early in the morning, Elisa and Dahlia styled her appearance. 3 hours later, an adorable little princess was born. Although her aunt claimed today's gathering was merely a simple reading session, the elder female companions would also be attending this time. Vivi silently resolved to leave a good impression. For her first public appearance, her aunt not only hosted the gathering, but also carefully arranged the seating. During the entrance, Vivi met the legendary three ladies. After the eldest, Countess Katrina, arrived as the finale, the reading session officially began. Today's literary work to be read was a happy day. The story's protagonist is Hans, the carriage driver. Poor Hans unexpectedly earned a lot of money that day. After finishing work, Hans remembered his sick wife at home, who had asked him not to go out to work today, so he bought his wife's favorite meat soup. But when he returned home, his wife had already become a cold corpse. No wonder I was so lucky today. Vivi had heard this story in her first life. Suddenly, Countess Katrina asked Vivi, "What do you think of this story?" Vivi reluctantly recited the reading comprehension template. That line, "No wonder I was so lucky today," left a deep impression on me because of his wife's death. Today was actually his most unlucky day. This sentence uses ironic expression, further emphasizing the tragic nature of the entire story. Upon hearing this, she immediately won the lady's approval, but drew jealousy from the neighboring table. Unexpectedly, the Countess of Marlton stood up. Well-bred nobles should know how to distinguish between criticism and praise. Appropriately silencing the others, then kindly said to Vivi, "You spoke really well." In this manner, she showed no sign of disliking children. During the intermission, Vivi noticed the Countess of Marlton left alone. Immediately asked the spirit to follow and confirm, unexpectedly discovering the legendary Countess of Marlton, who supposedly dislikes children, had been deeply misunderstood by everyone all along. It turned out that to ensure her own son could inherit the family title, this woman took advantage of when the Countess had a miscarriage, secretly gave her undried tea leaves to drink, causing her to remain childless for over 10 years, until this secret was discovered by a 7-year-old girl. Only then did she learn. The rumored child-hating Countess of Marlton had suffered a miscarriage over 10 years ago, and developed severe depression after the miscarriage. At that time, Viscountess Sibelian, her sister-in-law, stayed by her side to comfort her. Later, due to her continuous pregnancy failures, during the intermission of a banquet, she suddenly received an anonymous letter, stating that drinking undried tea leaves had contraceptive effects. The former Countess of Marlton, after giving birth to the Earl, began drinking this tea to prevent conflicts among heirs. If you investigate the doctor who was dismissed over 10 years ago, you will learn the truth of the matter. Afterward, Countess Marlton indeed used feeling unwell as an excuse to leave the gathering early. Upon returning home, she immediately found Viscountess Sibelian announcing that she and her son must leave together, because she had already found the attending physician who was dismissed years ago. Although that doctor had already passed away, his medical records detailed how the previous countess drank nobel tea for contraception. Viscountess Sibelian knew about this matter, yet recommended it to the countess who had just suffered a miscarriage. Because as long as she remained childless, Viscountess Sibelian's son could become the heir. Seeing her scheme exposed, Viscountess Sibelian actually dared to threaten the countess. If this matter spreads, you probably won't escape unscathed either. After all, you were the one who made this tea popular. But she didn't expect the countess to be so ruthless. She had already written a letter reporting everything to Her Highness the Princess, and would temporarily suspend social activities for reflection as an apology. As the leader of high society, Her Highness the Princess would certainly acknowledge this letter, while Viscountess Sibelian would be expelled from the Marlton family. And that very night, after Vivi had just fallen asleep, a group of people gathered outside the Earl's mansion. Awakened by someone's call in the middle of the night, she turned around to see an assassin standing by her bed, swinging a blade down at her. Fortunately, the ring her father gave her had protective magic. Vivi, who narrowly escaped, quickly rolled out of bed, then heard the Spirit King's warning. The space here is controlled by magic. They cannot enter areas outside the natural realm. Vivi, you must leave here quickly! Afterward, the Spirit King's voice abruptly stopped. Realizing the entire mansion was under magical control, Vivi decided to hide first. But there was more than one assassin. Vivi was quickly discovered. Just as the opponent was about to strike, a small figure suddenly entered her field of vision, engaging in fierce combat with the assassin, subduing the assassin in just a few moves, with the entire mansion under control. How did this boy escape to rescue her? Just as Vivi was about to speak to clarify, the boy signaled her not to talk. Let's get out first. There's a mage among their people. Thanks to the boy leading her through all obstacles, the two finally escaped. At this time, the Spirit King reappeared. Everyone clamored to avenge Vivi, but kind-hearted Vivi expressed that she was fine now, although she was still very frightened. She was more grateful to the boy who came to rescue her. Vivi threw herself into his arms. Thank you for saving me. If it weren't for you, I would definitely be dead. You are my lifesaver. I will remember this forever. Yet she forgot that she had once saved the boy's life too. Worried that the assassins hadn't gone far, Vivi and the boy slept against the courtyard wall for the night, until the next morning when her uncle and aunt learned of last night's events. They hurried over to check. Thanks to this child, she was saved, but embarrassingly, after learning Vivi was missing, her uncle had already sent an urgent report to the Duke. Vivi knew that with her father's impatient nature, he would definitely rush over anxiously. After her uncle inquired about what happened last night, he confirmed this was definitely hired assassination. But who was behind it remained unclear. Vivi suspected it was someone from Baron Adagio's family. After all, only if she were gone would they have a chance to obtain the Duke's position. At this moment, Vivi noticed the child sitting across from her. How could he enter the space controlled by the mage? Could he also use magic? Meanwhile, her father, upon hearing his daughter had disappeared, rode several horses to death through the night, traveling thousands of miles just to immediately confirm her safety. Upon arrival, his daughter threw herself into his arms. The Duke immediately checked whether Vivi had any injuries. Fortunately, she was completely unharmed. The mermaid's tear her father gave her on Valentine's Day blocked the killer's strike, but the next second Vivi stumbled and actually fainted. Seeing this, everyone around panicked and quickly called for a doctor, but was stopped by the awakening Vivi. My condition isn't that serious, I'm just too hungry. The next second, Vivi was pushed to the dining table, with her favorite sweets laid out before her. The Duke revealed, my daughter eats much more than ordinary people. But he didn't know that Vivi was like this, because every night, she had to switch between adult and child. So she was always hungry, but Vivi was very curious. How did you arrive so quickly? Her father said he happened to have business nearby, then immediately changed the subject. I heard you saved my daughter, is that right? What do you want? Hearing her father say this, Vivi immediately glared at him. Her father was being too rude to her lifesaver. Unexpectedly, her father asked even more directly, how much money do you want? I didn't save her for money. The Duke suddenly felt a sense of threat, sensing the tension between the two. Vivi quickly changed the subject. She had an appointment tomorrow to visit the Countess of Marlton's mansion. What should she do? Her father and uncle said in unison, you're not allowed to go. Her aunt also felt it would be more appropriate for Countess Marlton to come. As long as she explained the reason, she would surely understand. After eating and drinking her fill, Vivi soon became drowsy, completely unaware that after coaxing her to sleep, her father privately found the boy who saved his daughter, asking him what reward he wanted. What can you give me? I can give you anything, whether money, honor, or whatever. Just say the word. Even the throne you missed by mere seconds. But the boy said, I want to become stronger than I am now. This was his only wish. Such a simple wish the Duke immediately agreed to. A few days later, on the day Vivi was to meet the Countess. Upon meeting, Vivi immediately apologized to Countess Marlton. Fortunately, she was an understanding lady, and also very intelligent. As soon as she sat down, she asked, "That letter at the banquet was sent by you, wasn't it?" It turned out that Vivi, who didn't understand social rules, had made a big mistake. At a host's formal banquet, anonymous letters would not be sent. Saying this, Countess Marlton suddenly stood up and bowed deeply to Vivi. "The Marlton Earl family owes you a great favor. If it weren't for you, my family might have been destroyed unknowingly. So within my capabilities, I am willing to do anything for you. The Earl's family will stand behind the Andante Duke's family, and I will stand by your side." On this day, Vivi arranged to meet with Baldric. Upon meeting, she immediately inquired about the young lady's health and promised never to leave her side again. Although she knew Baldric meant well, compared to her health, Vivi had more important matters needing help. She wanted Baldric to become her double, sharing her secrets. Hearing this, Baldric agreed without hesitation. "I will do my utmost to keep your secrets." Vivi was very satisfied with her attitude, so she revealed that 3.5 years ago, she was the one who built the house for Elisa. Upon hearing this, Baldric thought this was absolutely fantastic. Vivi was only 3 years old at that time, but after hearing the whole story, she found it acceptable. After all, Vivi had been extraordinarily intelligent since childhood. Saying this, Vivi took out a map, explaining today's real purpose. She had wanted to build a house in this area, but now due to the attack incident, she couldn't go out, hoping Baldric could carry out the project in her place. Vivi had already called Erickson to the Eli Hotel. Regarding the needed building materials and basic construction, she could discuss with him. Hearing the name of this renowned plumber, Baldric exclaimed, "Could it be that you also invented the water tank?" Vivi smiled slightly and nodded in acknowledgement. "But Erickson doesn't know that was my idea. I previously always sent representatives, so you need to pay attention to this point." Baldric nodded. "I understand." Then Vivi revealed she had already thought of the merchant group's third product, the heated blanket. Originally, when she was explaining the heating furnace to Erickson, she suddenly thought of letting people who had already built houses also experience the idea of heated rooms, so she came up with the heated blanket. From Baldric's letters, she learned, wrinkled goblin skin has excellent waterproof properties and could be used to make hot water lines, while the insulation material covering the blanket could be easily obtained in the market, although using heat magic would consume many magic stones. This type of blanket could be sold at high prices to nobles. As for commoners with financial burdens, only insulation magic could be added to the blanket. The water for maintaining temperature only needed to be boiled in the fireplace. Using it wouldn't be that inconvenient. Truly a high-cost performance product. After reading this, Baldric suddenly said, "Staying here like this is such a waste of time." Then she stood up and began planning the work. Loving work was indeed his nature. Vivi believed this type of blanket would sell well. She was utilizing the noble's vanity and taking this opportunity to strengthen the merchant group, securing the heir position of the Andante Duke family. On this day, Vivi followed her uncle and aunt to visit Alancia Continental Academy together to see her 2 male cousins, but unexpectedly encountered the person she least wanted to meet, Magina. Learning that Vivi came to visit the cousins from the Irrit Earl family, Magina immediately burst into tears, accusing Vivi of never replying to her letters, yet personally coming to visit her cousins. "I understand you are the Duke's daughter, while I'm only a Baron's daughter. But Vivi, I'm really too heartbroken." After hearing Magina's accusations, the onlooking crowd also felt Vivi was excessive. Fortunately, Vivi already understood this girl well. She said expressionlessly, "That's truly unfortunate. I haven't received any letters at all. Could it be that the Academy's mail management office overlooked them?" Then she suggested going to verify together. Since letters were sent, there must be records. At this time, the onlookers still thought the Duke's daughter was definitely shirking responsibility. Clamoring, "Fine, then let's go verify." Saying this, they dragged Magina toward the mail management office. Seeing her deflated expression, it was clear she was lying. Magina hadn't expected her to have read the school handbook, knowing that mail sending would have registration management. After sending Magina away, Vivi was about to leave, when she collided with a human wall. Just as she was about to apologize, she looked up to see the other person staring intently at her, but couldn't understand what he was saying. Vivi put on her translation bracelet and discovered the other person was a pervert. This strange boy actually wanted to possess her. Just as Vivi was about to flee, she was protectively embraced by her cousin Leon. Only then did she learn that the perverted boy before her was actually the first heir to the throne of the Abelin Empire, the Crown Prince, Victor. Vivi had long heard of this Crown Prince, who was very interested in new cultural products and usually made substantial investments. Even the rapidly growing merchant group recently had grown gradually thanks to his investment. Thinking of this, Vivi felt this was an opportunity, actively stepping forward to introduce herself to the Crown Prince. calculating in her mind, I must make the most use of him. Unexpectedly, after Victor learned she was from the Andante family, he directly stated that Duke Father was a fierce and evil person. Although she had heard such evaluations before, this was the first time Vivi had met someone who spoke ill of her father to her face. She couldn't help but feel furious. At this moment, the Crown Prince realized his earlier rudeness. To apologize, he invited Vivi to attend his birthday banquet next January. Vivi gladly accepted. That day, Baldric excitedly told Vivi he had successfully created the heating wire that the young lady had mentioned, and had even invented an advanced version of the heated blanket, which could identify users through hair recognition, and would definitely be a hit among the nobility. But Vivi felt that such impressive technology was too valuable to be used only for heated blankets. She suggested that Baldric try using this method to conduct comparative experiments among relatives, which would allow them to target the bloodline-obsessed nobility as their market, and manufacture genetic testing devices. Additionally, she believed they could use fingerprints to distinguish users, because each person's fingerprints are actually unique. Vivi's extensive knowledge finally caught Baldric's attention. He was curious about where a 7-year-old girl had learned all this. Vivi was about to confess that she had transmigrated and been reborn, when Baldric suddenly exclaimed, "Could it be that you've read the ancient sages' texts?" Vivi naturally took advantage of this to cover up the truth. Seeing that the house she had previously commissioned Baldric to build was nearly complete, she planned to sneak over to take a look during the final stages. On the way, Vivi suddenly suggested, "Why don't we discuss the development project with Father?" Typically, merchant guilds would entrust such development to Mata, but Vivi didn't want to reveal the genetic technology to Mata, so she hoped Baldric could persuade her father to use their own family's mages for the research and development. After seeing that the house construction was progressing well, there were only 4 days left before Vivi would leave Maple House. That day she received a letter. It was a reply from Lady Valletta. Since Vivi couldn't visit in person, she wanted to ask if Lady Valletta could come visit the ducal city. For such a long journey, Vivi should have invited her entire family, but considering that she and her husband were currently separated, this would be far too complicated. Moreover, with Vivi's 7th birthday approaching soon, she still hadn't chosen her elder female companion. Her aunt had even suggested taking on the role herself, but Vivi still hoped to meet with Lady Valletta first, after which she should be able to make her decision. Ever since Vivi was attacked in Iberden, the Duke had sworn to find the mastermind behind it. At night he brought the boy to the largest assassins guild in Iberden, and completely annihilated the place. As the guild's assassins faced death, they tried to save their lives, voluntarily offering to cooperate and reveal the mastermind, but still couldn't escape death, because he said that woman was from the Gisante family, around 25 years old. The Duke immediately recalled the woman who had abused Vivi 3 years ago. She was from a branch of the Gisante Baron's family. Without hesitation, he killed the guild leader with a single sword thrust, because the culprit wasn't actually from the Gisante Baron's family. After that incident, he had been continuously gathering intelligence about the Gisante family, but had never received any news of their activities. So the Duke concluded that the leader was lying. He turned to ask the boy who was watching, "Do you think we should spare the leader's life?" The boy decisively said no, "But I believe it's necessary to torture him severely to confirm the truth." But the Duke said, "You're still too naive. For an assassin leader who already knows that he's certain to die, even severe torture wouldn't make him tell the truth." So the Duke's killing of him was also a warning to others. "I want to tell everyone, anyone who threatens my daughter's life will ultimately face only death." Afterward, the Duke told the boy, "You said you wanted to become stronger, right? Then you must become more cold-blooded and ruthless. Emotions will only become your weakness." Soon it was time for Vivi to leave Maple House. That day she was discussing her 7th birthday with her aunt, when suddenly the boy appeared behind her, startling her. The boy asked with an unhappy expression, "Why didn't you tell me your birthday was coming up?" Vivi was also helpless. During this time they hadn't met, so how could she have told him? Vivi took the opportunity to ask about his birthday, and discovered this boy was particularly strange. He didn't even know his own birthday or name. "Then why don't you help me choose a name?" Suddenly receiving such an important task, Vivi was also startled. But perhaps this was a good opportunity to make him one of her own. Vivi thought for a moment. "How about you be called Esteban from today on?" The boy murmured the name several times, his elongated eyes revealing his happiness. "I like this name. Then you can decide my birthday too." Vivi felt that there was no time like the present. "How about today?" Esteban agreed immediately. "Good. I will never forget the name and birthday you chose for me." Seeing that Vivi would return to the ducal territory tomorrow, before leaving, she specifically came to the training ground to bid Esteban a final farewell, but unexpectedly witnessed him removing his hood, suddenly finding him quite dazzling. Noticing Vivi's arrival, Esteban quickly put his hat back on and asked what she needed. Hearing Vivi say she would leave tomorrow, Esteban became completely dejected. But then Vivi proposed, "If you're willing, come with me to the ducal mansion. Our family particularly values talent." Esteban didn't speak and only asked after a moment, "What about you? I also like intelligent and powerful people. How about it, will you come with me?" She thought that given their friendship, Esteban would agree. Unexpectedly, after hesitating briefly, he directly refused. "I won't go." Vivi felt like she had suffered her life's greatest defeat, and hurriedly asked him for his reasons. Learning that Esteban would go to the Academy's swordsmanship department in 2 months, he wanted to learn many things there and become powerful. "I want to conquer the world." Such a grand ambition shocked even Vivi. She pointed out that to conquer the world he would need not only strength, but also the help of intelligence guilds and merchant organizations. But Esteban seemed to have never considered these things. Vivi remembered that next January, she would go to the Empire to attend the Crown Prince's birthday banquet, so they agreed to meet again then. Just then a gentle breeze blew, leaving Esteban mesmerized. After a moment he reached out to remove the leaf from Vivi's hair. "I will wait for you." At this moment Vivi still thought this was just a child's promise, only hoping he would remember this instant. On the day of returning to the ducal city, everyone from Maple House came to see Vivi off. Vivi actually spotted Esteban in the crowd. She quickly waved her hand. Under the effect of the wide area magic scroll, she returned to the ducal territory almost instantly, although she knew her father had spent a fortune on such items. To avoid missing her birthday, Vivi still felt it was too extravagant, but opening her eyes to see her father standing right there, waiting with everyone for her return, Vivi couldn't help but rush into her father's embrace. Just after returning home, she requested permission from her father to go to the Empire next January to attend the Crown Prince's birthday banquet. Upon hearing this, her father immediately refused without hesitation. He hadn't expected that. Flies would already be buzzing around his little daughter. But Vivi didn't want to miss this opportunity to gain the Crown Prince's investment. She acted coquettishly, saying, "Father, didn't you promise me? You said you would definitely travel to the Empire with me next time. I've never taken a trip alone with you." The series of sweet words indeed overwhelmed the Duke, and he immediately relented. But before going to the Empire, she had another important task: hosting a grand birthday banquet. To prepare for the upcoming birthday celebration, Vivi proposed to the Duke that she wanted to invite Baron Salopia's family to visit. The Duke readily agreed. After all, for Vivi, choosing an elder female companion was a significant matter. They decided to invite them to attend Vivi's birthday banquet. Until then, Vivi had always thought birthday banquets were just family gatherings, but was told that once she chose her elder female companion, she would officially enter social life. So before that, the Duke wanted to introduce his excellent and adorable daughter to all the nobles of Iberdan to his complete satisfaction. Soon Baron Salopia's family arrived at the ducal mansion. Accompanying them was also their son Leeson. Although this child appeared timid and introverted, the spirit could sense the aura of a guardian on him. Though not yet contracted, he could communicate with spirits. This was the first time Vivi had encountered such a remarkable child. But the next second, the Baron scolded with disgust. "What are you doing? How dare you introduce this foolish child to the Duke's daughter? How shameless." Then he called for the nanny to take the child away. This scene not only made the Duke clench his fists, but also shocked Vivi. How could he speak so disparagingly of his own child? Moreover, Leeson clearly had wonderful talents. Vivi noticed that Lady Valletta wanted to follow Leeson as he left. But because the Duke and she were still present, she could only endure. She needed to end this pleasantries quickly. "You two must be tired from traveling such a long distance. You should hurry and rest." "Father, didn't you have something to tell me?" Fortunately, her father understood Vivi's meaning and prepared to leave with her. Before departing, Vivi remembered she had prepared some sweets for Leeson and arranged to meet with Lady Valletta in an hour. Unfortunately, because Leeson dislikes crowded situations, he won't be able to attend your birthday banquet. Vivi smiled it off. "That's fine. I also dislike noisy places, so I completely understand." But after seeing this family off, Vivi suddenly said to her father, "Father, I don't like that Baron. He actually said such things to a 5-year-old child. It's truly heartbreaking." Hearing this, the Duke as a father immediately drew his blade, ready to take his life, because his actions had made his precious daughter sad, so he would have to pay the corresponding price. Vivi went to Lady Valletta's room. Since the Baron and she were currently going through divorce proceedings, Vivi had specifically arranged separate rooms for them. She also brought some sweets she particularly enjoyed, wanting to let Leeson try them. Through brief communication, Vivi discovered that when the Baron wasn't present, Leeson would still try to speak. Lady Valletta revealed that Leeson was afraid of adults, especially men. However, when he was with friends his age, the situation improved considerably. But the problem was that given Leeson's condition, he couldn't make friends his age, and the Baron strongly opposed Leeson meeting other children. At this point, Vivi guessed Lady Valletta's true purpose. If she was willing to be friends with Leeson, then she would agree to become her elder female companion, truly worthy of a warrior from the battlefield. She would certainly reward those who had merit. "But I'm sorry, I cannot accept such conditions." Lady Valletta thought Vivi was rejecting Leeson, and wanted to struggle a bit more, but unexpectedly she said, "Even without this condition, I still want to be friends with Leeson. No conditions necessary, so I might steal away your time with Leeson. Is that all right?" At this moment, Lady Valletta seemed to see Vivi's body emanating a brilliant radiance. Tomorrow would be Vivi's birthday banquet. That night, the Duke secretly passed a law. After the reconstruction work in Andante Duchy was completed, the Duke simply established a construction guild. Although the guild would also help other territories build houses. To earn money from the nobles, this was still far from enough. 3 months ago, he had already submitted under Baron's name, a special residential law proposal, preparing to give Vivi the most wonderful gift. Meanwhile, the ill-intentioned Lady Audrey was likewise preparing tomorrow's gift for Vivi. After receiving Magina's letter, she became increasingly angry. That girl had actually gone to the Empire to cause trouble. Worse still, the assassination guild she had hired at great expense had been dealt with by someone. Although she had used the Zante name at the time, she somehow felt very uneasy. To put her mind at ease as soon as possible, she decided to use special methods to give her an unforgettable birthday banquet. Soon the birthday banquet began. Her uncle and aunt came forward with gifts. They had prepared a special gift for Vivi. It was her mother's diary written when she was 7 years old. This held extraordinary meaning for her. Vivi held it in her arms and wouldn't let go for a long time. Afterward, an endless stream of gifts was presented. Finally, it was Baron Adagio's family's turn. Lady Audrey presented an ominous and eerie box. Driven by curiosity, Vivi opened the box and discovered it was actually a beautiful brooch. Just as she was surprised that it was such a normal gift, the spirit immediately recognized this as an evil object. It was a cursed artifact containing a curse. Just touching it would trigger the spell. No wonder Lady Audrey had no good intentions. Vivi quickly closed the box and thanked her for the thoughtful gift. After all, there was currently no way to prove this item was cursed. But once the evidence was solid, she would definitely have them expelled from the family. Vivi specifically reminded the maid to remember to tie this gift securely with rope for her, setting this matter aside for now, because she needed to focus on welcoming the next guest. She and Baldric had planned for a long time, just for this day. It turned out that several days before the birthday banquet, Vivi had instructed Baldric to present the heated blanket as a gift to her at the banquet. By then, nobles of baron rank and above would all be present, if he presented the heated blanket. As a merchant guild owner at that time, it would definitely achieve excellent promotional results, and would surely make heated blankets a winter essential. At this moment, Baldric, in front of all the nobles, deliberately mentioned that he had been delayed preparing her gift. This gift is a heated blanket, launched by the Elikira Merchant Guild that I operate. What is this thing? I'm hearing about it for the first time. The heated blanket is a winter heating product developed by our guild. You just need to spread it under your mattress and activate it, and your entire bed will become warm. You'll never have to lie down in ice-cold bedding again. Vivi took the opportunity to suggest letting all the guests experience it. This was truly effective promotion. The nobles' reactions were all very positive. The heated blanket business was a great success. At the birthday banquet, seeing Vivi surrounded by admirers like a star, Euston harbored a belly full of anger while wandering aimlessly through the Duke's mansion. Though his mother assured him that the Duke's position would certainly be his, living in the annex still made him feel the unfairness of it all. At that moment, he happened upon the room where gifts were stored. The envy in his heart transformed into jealousy. He suddenly wondered what kind of expression Vivi would show if she discovered that her birthday presents had been completely ransacked. So while no one was paying attention, he began selecting those valuable gifts. Then she caught sight of the brooch his mother had sent. He already thought this item looked quite expensive, perfect for taking away while he had the chance. Until his pockets could hold no more did he leave satisfied. But just as he stepped out of the room, Euston felt something was wrong. How strange, why do I feel so dizzy? The next second, he lost consciousness and collapsed to the ground. Meanwhile, noticing her father's absence from the banquet, Vivi went out searching. Sure enough, she found her father standing alone in the corridor, gazing at her mother's photograph in solitary contemplation. Though today was her birthday, it was also the anniversary of her mother's death. The Duke had originally wanted to hide this to spare Vivi's feelings, never expecting this thoughtful child to take the initiative to say, "It's only natural that you would miss mother since you loved her so deeply, so you need not feel guilty. I also cherish you when you're thinking of mother." Just then a guard rushed over urgently, shouting, "Duke, something terrible has happened." The guard whispered something in the Duke's ear, and father immediately ordered Vivi to return to her room. After that, the maids began preventing her from returning to the banquet hall. Vivi had no choice but to seek help from the Fairy King. Learning that Euston had touched a cursed object, and that he had encountered trouble while in the process of stealing gifts, Vivi thought that since they had brought the item themselves, they should know how to destroy the cursed object. Little did she know that the banquet hall had already descended into chaos. Euston now appeared completely mindless, until the magician arrived to search him. Only then did they discover the stolen brooch on his person. The Duke immediately recognized the original owner of this brooch. He turned back to stare darkly at Lady Audrey. She hastily knelt down to admit her mistake, only begging the Duke to save her son, even shifting all the blame onto her husband. At this point, the magician reported to the Duke, "This brooch is a cursed object that can evoke psychological shadows and drive people to madness." This actually confirmed that the Gigante family's mistreatment of Vivi was intentional. Moreover, recently, someone using the Gigante family name had hired the Assassin's Guild to take Vivi's life. These coincidences were far too perfectly orchestrated, though the Duke desperately wanted to eliminate this entire family. For Vivi's sake, he had to exercise restraint. The Duke coldly ordered to send that fellow to the temple, while simultaneously announcing on the spot that from today forward, Baron Adagio's family would be expelled from the clan, along with termination of all their support. Not only would they be driven from the territory, but all their assets and resources would be confiscated. And to help Lyson and Countess Valletta, Vivi informed her father. She had decided to make Lady Salopia her elder female companion, and hoped he would stand on the side of justice. Several days earlier, Vivi had encountered Lyson in the garden, discovering that he was extremely afraid of adult men like her father. Through the spirits surrounding Lyson, Vivi witnessed fragments of Lyson's memories. At such a young age, he had actually witnessed his father engaging in adult activities with a woman, and had told his mother about this incident. Afterward, Countess Valletta confronted her husband, reminding him to at least show some restraint in front of the child, only to be met with violent assault. Witnessing this scene, Lyson felt tremendous guilt. Was it because of what he had said that mother got beaten? From that day forward, he frequently witnessed his parents quarreling. His father would rage that he was an abnormal child. His mother was always in tears. Seeing this, Vivi opened her eyes, unable to help patting Lyson and telling him, "No matter what happened before, remember that none of it was your fault, so you must stop blaming yourself." Hearing someone say for the first time that it wasn't his fault, Lyson could no longer bear the gristabance in his heart. He couldn't help but burst into tears. Hearing this child's anguished sobs, Vivi silently vowed, "I will absolutely not let him get away with this. I must ensure that such a person of vile character receives his punishment." The next day in the guest room of Duke Andante's city villa, Baron Salopia was having a private meeting with his lover. Suddenly, a group of people pushed open the door and burst into the room. The newcomer was none other than Count Silos, the parliamentary divorce examiner. He pointed at the scene before him and asked the Baron to explain. The Baron lied, claiming they had only met at yesterday's banquet, even willing to stake his noble honor as guarantee that not a single word he spoke was false. But the facts were quite embarrassing as the Duke stepped forward, producing a photograph that contained evidence of his lies, proving that the Baron and that woman had not met for the first time at the banquet, as well as showing this person forcefully shoving his son in the corridor and raising his hand to strike the Baroness. With irrefutable evidence, the Count announced rejection of his divorce petition. "As for your previous promise staked on your noble honor, we'll discuss that when we meet in Parliament." Subsequently, the butler also stepped forward to remind the Baron. "The Duke says if you don't leave this place within 5 minutes, you'll be regarded as an intruder." At the same time, Viscount Valletta also declared, "If you dare return to the house I bought for my daughter, you'll receive a declaration of war from the family." This day was certainly a nightmare for Baron Salopia. On the other side, father showed Vivi a document. Written on it was the financial information of the Knock Knock Construction Guild. Hearing this name, Vivi was startled. Father said the name Knock Knock was something I said offhandedly. What will the people who commission us to build houses think of us? Let them think whatever they want. The guild's name doesn't matter what it is. After hearing this, Vivi pouted. "Then we might as well use my name instead." She was just speaking casually, but it made the Duke's eyes light up. "This is a good idea. If the guild were called Vivi Construction, then the whole country would know your name." Worried that father might impulsively change the name, Vivi quickly changed the subject. According to the special residence law, all houses built by the guild afterward would belong to Vivi. If Vivi's goal was to become a landlord, then letting things develop this way would be fine. But now is not the time to seek profit. I need to sell the houses. Sell them to people who will actually live in them. That is the true purpose of the construction guild. Hearing Vivi say she wanted to build houses to sell, the Duke was very concerned whether her funds would be sufficient. "If you need it, the Duke's estate can provide project funding." "No need, I plan to use a pre-sale system, which means selling the residences before they're completed, along with deposits and interim payments. I will collect 80% of the housing price to carry out the construction work, letting everyone see the construction process, then collecting interim payments in several installments." This sales method was very common in Vivi's first life. The Duke worried that commoners' incomes were unstable and they couldn't pay. Vivi had already thought of a solution. Have the lords pay this money, because only by providing interest-free loans to territorial residents can lords begin reconstruction work. Though this isn't a small sum, who told them, they've always been avoiding the housing problems of territorial residents. This day Vivi received a letter from Esteban, learning that he, who had just gone to the academy to study, actually aspired to become a villain, making her worry about his mental state. But the letter also came with a hairband. Vivi was very pleased after receiving it. Just as she was preparing to write back to Esteban expressing her gratitude, she glimpsed a royal carriage driving into the Duke's mansion. Moments later, the Duke accompanied Vivi to greet the visitor, the noble Prince Nickford. The first time Vivi saw him, she thought, "His Highness is far too handsome." She had always been curious about what kind of appearance could be treated as a commodity, never expecting it to be idol level. But this idol seemed extremely aloof, not even willing to spare Vivi a glance, yet he gave Vivi a feeling that seemed somewhat similar to Esteban. Shortly after His Royal Highness moved in, the Duke personally knocked on his door. He noticed that though the prince was staying for 6 months, he had only brought light luggage and not even guards. Only then learning that the servants in the prince's palace were basically Parliament's people. They were extremely afraid of going to the notoriously infamous Duke's estate, so none were willing to come. "What exactly do you want with me?" His Royal Highness seemed unwilling to speak much with the Duke, seeing that he not only used that beautiful face to bewitch his own daughter, but also dared to speak to him with such an arrogant tone. The Duke felt very displeased. After a moment of silence, he said, "I came today just to briefly explain tomorrow's curriculum. I know dancing, singing, fan management, right?" The Duke was quite surprised after hearing this. It's said that the current King Anzac's words and actions are very similar to those of a singer. Who would have thought that the prince had also grown up receiving such education? The Duke suddenly understood why Duke Schwitz was unwilling to give up the position of the prince's tutor. He was cultivating royal family members like decorative objects. The Duke corrected him. "What you need to learn is swordsmanship, fairy magic, and imperial studies." These were all subjects Prince had never heard of before. The Duke told him these were all required subjects for becoming a king, and asked him not to act spoiled in the future. "Though I don't like you, I can help you become a king." The kings of this country are all idols who have practiced for 3.5 years, and to maintain their best condition. Before the people at all times, past kings were shelved once they began to age. Having just learned about the situation from His Royal Highness, the Duke's brow was now deeply furrowed. The problem was more serious than he had imagined. It seemed he would need to have the teachers significantly reduce the curriculum difficulty. No matter what, he had to help Prince Nickford become a true king. Only this way could the restoration of royal power be achieved. After King Liberto's tyranny became increasingly severe, the nobility and temples launched a military coup, forcing Liberto to sign a National Governance Commission document, stripping him of all power. Great ancestor Rawili founded the half-demon dynasty. Generation after generation possessed dazzling appearances. This had become a symbol of Ibrahim, so Parliament decided not to overthrow the dynasty, only retaining the influence brought by the king's appearance. Therefore, the nobles who spent vast sums maintaining the royal family all hoped the king would abdicate after age 40, so that young and beautiful kings could rule continuously. Parliament, which completely regarded the king as a puppet, had degenerated into a place for nobles to seek profit. If the people complained bitterly, Parliament would invoke the temples to suppress popular sentiment, so the country now needed a true king. Over the next month, His Royal Highness had to undergo high-intensity training every day. As his studies deepened, he began to lose faith in the world he had known. Beautiful appearance had once been his only reason for existence. From childhood, servants had emphasized the importance of looks. But with age, he had already seen clearly that appearance determined his life and death, actually feeling sorrow for his own fate. Though Duke Andante said he would help him become king, the king he spoke of was a completely different concept. Could he succeed? But even if he failed, he didn't want to return to the palace like this. Didn't want to live as a puppet like his father. Feeling overwhelmed, His Royal Highness rushed out, only to collide directly with Vivi, who was taking a walk. The tears in his eyes couldn't help but burst forth. He quickly covered them with his hands. Unexpectedly, Vivi said, "If you want to cry, go behind the villa. There's no one there at all." Since he disliked everyone's obsession with his appearance, His Royal Highness had always been very cold toward Vivi. But unexpectedly, she didn't care at all and was very kind. When talking with her, he couldn't help but blush and feel his heart race. Meanwhile, the despicable Duke Schwitz found Count Elnor, handing him the design drawings he had stolen. "You must produce the substitute within 2 weeks." Count Elnor was completely confident. At the same time, Baldric also discovered the design drawings seemed to have been leaked. Otherwise, the Berliner commercial group couldn't have replicated the heated blanket so quickly. But fortunately, what was leaked was the initial version, probably because they had recently hired too many new people, leading to inadequate security. Even if they disassembled the heated blanket, it would be difficult to discover that the hot water lines were made from special materials. Though the core technology hadn't been leaked, the fake heated blankets might cause safety incidents. Vivi believed they needed to prepare first, taking the safety certification obtained from Moda and giving it to customers who had already purchased, while also engraving unique numbers on the products and sending them out together. Baldric was stunned by this. What a brilliant idea. At the same time, he also felt that the intelligence leak might be from Duke Schwitz's family, because the Berliner commercial group alone couldn't have obtained intelligence so easily. So he suspected that behind the Berliner commercial group was the Schwitz family. It's them again. Vivi only felt that this family was even more lacking in business ethics than she had imagined. A month later, under Countess Valletta's guidance, Vivi could already attend social functions independently. Since the last birthday party incident, Baroness Salopia had successfully divorced, returning to her identity as Countess Valletta, while Baron Salopia, being determined as the party at fault, had to give half his assets to Lyson, and couldn't remarry for 5 years. Not only that, for the next 2 years, he had to personally participate in monster subjugation. This is called reaping what you sow. This day, Countess Valletta suddenly mentioned Duke Schwitz's daughter had held a birthday party not long ago. Vivi had also received an invitation but didn't attend. At that time, she had just begun receiving social training and was afraid of making mistakes. Moreover, most of the capital's nobility were closely associated with the Schwitz ducal family. Though even if Vivi made mistakes, her father would protect her. She didn't want to cause trouble for her father, and hearing that Baron Adagio's family would also attend, she didn't want to encounter them again. Countess Valletta asked Vivi, "How do you view Duke Schwitz's daughter?" This question made Vivi somewhat uncomfortable, because she was very disgusted with the Schwitz family. That young lady has also received strict education. She's certainly different from ordinary children, and she's also 7 years old now. Therefore, I want to get along well with her. This day, Vivi accompanied her father to attend the Imperial Prince's birthday banquet, unfortunately encountering Duke Schwitz there. As soon as they met, he began mocking sarcastically. "Never expected that you, who didn't even attend my daughter's birthday party, would actually appear at a foreign prince's birthday celebration." Then the woman beside him also spoke. "It seems this young lady, like my daughter, is beginning to participate in social activities from today." Vivi used the Abelian Empire's greeting style to directly retort, which the woman truly hadn't anticipated, hastily calling her daughter over to greet them. Subsequently, a doll-like adorable girl appeared before Vivi, saying she wanted to be good friends with Vivi. Vivi indeed wanted to get along well with Miss Schwitz. But was that really possible? At this moment, the imperial royalty made their entrance. Vivi was preparing to take the opportunity to present her gift to the crown prince when she heard Duke Schwitz say, "The gift our family has prepared for you is a heated blanket, and it's also a self-developed product from the Main Trading Company. All of this is Ellie's achievement," suggesting the heated blanket as a gift. This way it could also serve promotional purposes. Just as the crown prince was curious about how to use this item, Vivi's voice suddenly came from behind. "Dad, don't you think this is amazing? The gift we prepared is also a heated blanket." After speaking, the Duke immediately presented the Andante family's gift. It turned out to be the same gift. This showed how popular this item was in Ibriton. At this time, Vivi stepped forward to clarify. Although they look similar on the outside, they are different products. The heated blanket we prepared is from the Erichila Trading Company, an original product that has already passed market testing. At this moment, Duke Schwitz's face had already turned green. Fortunately, Vivi had prepared everything in advance. She had also prepared heated blankets for the other royalty. Everyone praised them after trying them out. The crown prince was also full of interest in this product. Thinking this matter had come to an end, Vivi, who had been hungry all day, was preparing to eat some delicious food when Miss Schwitz came over and actively chatted with her. "You spoke so well just now. I even let out a small sigh of admiration from the side. But I noticed you don't seem to speak imperial language very well yet." "Yes, I've only been studying for a month. Everyone else has been learning imperial language since childhood. You started learning a bit late. It seems because there's no mistress in the family. So someone gave birth, but no one taught you." Unexpectedly, Vivi immediately retorted, as expected of a spoiled brat from childhood, always getting confused about situations. "Even if your family has a mother who learned etiquette. So what? You're still so impolite with such poor character. You're simply the most vulgar, scheming girl I've ever seen." Miss Schwitz immediately became angry from embarrassment, shouting that she wanted to settle accounts with Vivi, even forgetting this was in a public place. But Vivi still asked her, "Do you know there's a novel called Root in the Kingdom of Koya? I heard plagiarists not only lose face, but are also driven out of the kingdom. I wonder what you think about this." After speaking, Vivi turned and walked away, thinking this conversation could give her some warning, but didn't notice that after she left, Miss Schwitz behind her was gritting her teeth staring at her, swearing she would make her pay dearly. That day, after Vivi returned to the villa, she received a letter. Opening it, she found it was actually from His Highness the Crown Prince. He very much liked the gift she had given, and wanted to give her some reward in return. Vivi immediately had someone call Baldric. They would go together to find the Crown Prince to discuss cooperation. Baldric rushed over overnight. After learning what happened at the birthday banquet, he was also surprised. The Main Trading Company had launched heated blankets so quickly, but fortunately they didn't know the core principles. Vivi only hoped no safety accidents would occur. But at this time, Baldric showed a troubled expression and revealed the modular furniture project had problems. They were having difficulty purchasing land for the Bikaya furniture showroom. According to the subsidiary clauses in the Residential Special Act, the person responsible for the showroom needed to negotiate with the Lord regarding the land use adaptation. but currently there was no suitable candidate in the trading company. The person who could deal with nobles must understand etiquette and have experience managing huge amounts of money. Vivi already had a good candidate in mind, but before that she still had a big trouble to solve. The next day the crown prince personally came to the door, unceremoniously inviting them all back. On the other side, a boy used a heated blanket to sleep for the first time and was scalded by hot water leaking from the defective product. While the next day his brother's buttocks suffered the same fate, the king angrily summoned both trading companies for confrontation, questioning how they dared to give such defective products as gifts to the royal family, and demanded both trading companies provide compensation. But the heated blankets had undergone rigorous testing. Even if hot water leaked out, it wouldn't scald you. And Duke Schwitz, who was equally at fault, why could he remain so calm? To verify the cause of the accident, Vivi had Baldric step forward to investigate, but was suspected by the second prince of trying to destroy evidence, and was stopped. Fortunately, they had already obtained safety certificates in Moda. This meant this matter not only concerned the Andante Duke's family, but also involved Moda. After Baldric examined the heated blanket, he indeed found the problem. The internal hot water lines were completely severed. He immediately reached a conclusion. This heated blanket absolutely could not have scalded the second prince. After speaking, he immediately poured a cup of hot water into the heated blanket. It could be seen that even with artificial water injection, no water would penetrate to the outside of the heated blanket. Because they had waterproofed the inside of the heated blanket, there was only one possibility: the second prince was lying. But before everyone could voice this conclusion, the second prince had already become angry. Even the crown prince reminded him not to rush to confess. At this time, the representative of the Billimain Trading Company took the opportunity to say, "Then our heated blanket should also be this kind of situation." But was interrupted by the crown prince, "We can't think that way, because I didn't use the heated blanket from Billimain myself," before giving it to the third prince. And that night the third prince encountered an accident. After opening the heated blanket from Billimain, it could clearly be seen it was a problem with the product itself. Duke Schwitz immediately roared at Count Elnor. It seemed he was going to abandon his tail to save himself, but their hot water line showed no signs of being cut. This was clearly a self-directed farce. Falling to such a state now was also self-inflicted. The truth of the matter was already very clear. The accident with the Arashila Trading Company's heated blanket had absolutely nothing to do with the Andante family. Additionally, what the Schwitz family sent was indeed a defective product. They would be held accountable by the royal family. Afterwards, Vivi still felt strange. Why did the second prince stage this drama himself? Because he learned I was going to invest in the Arashila Trading Company. He wanted to use this incident to restrain me, so he could ascend to the crown prince position himself. It seemed Vivi was still drawn into the power struggle. So the young man made a move, offering an entire capital residence, directly renting it to Vivi for free as a furniture showroom. Although the crown prince said it was as an apology gift, it still greatly surprised Vivi and the others. Taking advantage of the furniture exhibition, she did two big things. First was commissioning Nanny Elisa to become the manager of the furniture showroom. Second was taking the opportunity to launch a new product, fans. Vivi, who had recently been attending the Cherry Blossom Festival in the capital, after wandering around the village felt extremely hot and thought of this cross-century product that could let everyone have a cool summer. Using two magical components, it could be easily completed. Additionally, proposing to replace the heated blanket with ice water. It could be sold as an ice blanket. Seeing such novel items, Baldric was full of admiration for Vivi. These would become their first batch of products to enter the imperial market. Baldric was so excited he didn't plan to sleep, while Vivi also had to start getting busy with socializing. The palace ball held during the Cherry Blossom Festival was her first formal social activity. Valletta would escort her throughout, but the capital was Duke Schwitz's family territory. Vivi had to be extra careful not to leave any openings. The ball began with the king inviting Lady Schwitz to dance, but the prince didn't invite Miss Schwitz to dance, as everyone expected. Instead, he extended an invitation to Vivi. With the prince's encouragement, Vivi confidently began dancing, but didn't notice Miss Schwitz in the crowd. Had already become so angry she was gritting her teeth. So when Vivi was preparing to greet her peers, she encountered Miss Schwitz leading exclusion, mocking her as a country girl with no shame. But facing such a scheming little cutie, Vivi was already prepared. She actively greeted the young ladies around her. Out of social etiquette, everyone had to respond. The awkward exclusionary atmosphere was instantly dissolved by Vivi. Finally, she deliberately mocked Miss Schwitz and turned to leave the scene. Vivi won a great victory at this banquet. Soon after, 2 months passed following the Cherry Blossom Festival, when it was time for the prince to leave the duke's mansion. Vivi specially came to bid farewell, unexpectedly learning that because the royal family had been injected with divine power through restraints by nobles and the temple, he couldn't use magic and spirit power simultaneously, so he also couldn't master some of the duke's teachings. Vivi tightly grasped his hand, encouraging him to work hard. "Whatever it is, you can definitely do it. Although on the day the prince left, Vivi had business and wasn't in the Duke's city. She left a letter and a key for him as a farewell gift. That key was a gift Vivi received after building a house for the Spirit Master grandfather in Count Iret's territory, hoping the prince could unlock the restraints and be his true self. Not long after, Vivi was invited to Countess Marlton's house and, on the way, passed through a village where villagers tearfully begged her for help. The Lord said he wanted reconstruction projects and took everyone away. He also found the children troublesome and sent them directly to the temple, saying he would let the children return only when the project ended smoothly. But the construction site had harsh conditions with frequent accidents. Now they just wanted to escape completely with the children. After hearing this, Vivi was furious. She didn't publicize architectural blueprints to let lords do whatever they wanted. But the guard beside her reminded Vivi, "I think you'd better not interfere in this matter. Because this is the territory of Baron Travis, a vassal of Duke Schwitz. As outsiders, if we interfere, we might cause trouble for His Grace the Duke." Although reluctantly, Vivi could only leave some potions, then turned and left for Count Marlton's house. Upon meeting Vivi was delighted to discover Countess Marlton was already 6 months pregnant, and this was all thanks to Vivi's contribution. During dinner, Vivi mentioned what she encountered on the road, discovering that Duke Schwitz's vassal actually used kidnapping children as a means to forcibly recruit workers, which made her very angry. Hearing this news, the Count and Countess immediately exchanged glances, even mentioning that several weeks ago several carriages had passed through the Count's territory. The suspicious Count conducted a search and found the carriages carried over 30 children, being sent toward Mount Nibby. But the leading holy knight showed him a letter from the temple, proving these were all children who would become priest apprentices. So Butler Andrew gave Vivi an idea to tell the Duke about this matter and invite the high priest or bishop to the Duke's city to put some pressure on them. Indeed, after hearing this, Father was very angry. He was determined to sweep away these troublesome flies for Vivi, immediately sending people to contact the temple. He wanted to figure out what the temple was really planning. The day before the furniture showroom opening, Vivi and Esteban arranged to meet. This time he unusually removed his mask, which greatly surprised Vivi. This was because before coming, his academy classmate told him he could cast a spell on his face to make others face blind toward him. Indeed, after Vivi saw it, she completely couldn't remember where she had seen this face. After returning, she told Father about this. Originally, she thought Esteban was a royal family member, but now it seemed completely unlike that, making her even more curious. The Duke hesitated for a moment and decided to tell Vivi. Esteban was actually Prince Nickford's twin brother. 100 years ago, there was a prophecy in the royal family. Among the twins about to be born to the royal family, one child would be born with divine power. This child would use divine power to erase people's faith in gods, and Esteban was this prophesied child. But after the decline of royal power, the temple and nobles who intended to seize power to prevent the prophecy from coming true restricted the number of royal family members. But they were also very greedy, wanting to study Esteban's divine power. To completely seal Esteban, the temple injected divine power into the restraints preparing to transfer him, but was coincidentally rescued by Vivi and became that corpse. After hearing about these experiences, Vivi shed sad tears. She felt Esteban was too pitiful. She absolutely couldn't abandon him, thinking Father would be angry. Unexpectedly, he also looked at Vivi with great pity, swearing that no matter what happened, Father would protect you, because this was the mission he promised his wife to fulfill. This day, Vivi suddenly asked him about Mother. The reason was she heard Elisa mention Mother had the ability to foresee the future when she was young, even knowing things before her own birth. This made Vivi curious. Mother couldn't have not foreseen her own death. Indeed, in Father's memory, Sienna also always made suggestions that seemed irrelevant. Like when monsters were clearly in the north, she told him to go south, or attending banquets reminding him to bring the attending physician. Every time being proven right, the Duke found it incredible. After learning Sienna was pregnant, he wanted to bring his wife back, but was stopped by his wife, saying there would be matters in the Duke's territory that needed him there. Indeed, not long after, magical beasts invaded the Duke's territory, while Sienna kept her promise to protect precious Vivi. So she already knew her own ending. Vivi learned that Mother also had the ability to travel through time and space, meaning she went to the prison 100 years ago, and gave the ring to herself. At this time, the Duke reminded Vivi, "You must carefully read the diary your uncle gave you. After reading it, you'll also better understand Mother's feelings." This day was the most memorable day in my eventful 7-year-old life, Vivi thought to herself. Gendea Administration. Year 12, May 5th. As a 7th birthday gift, I received from Father the ring grandmother left me, and the diary Mother left me. Gendea Administration. Year 12, June 10th. Mother scolded me for not understanding etiquette. When Mother was my age, she definitely wasn't as good as me. I'm still not as good as Mother. With that thought, I opened the door, and there appeared my mother's childhood self, who was scolded even more than me at that time. Gendea Administration. Year 13, July 30th. After a year of time travel, gradually becoming familiar with this situation, I suddenly became curious about grandmother who left me this ring. So with the desire to meet grandmother, I opened the door. Unexpectedly, behind the door was a little boy. Probably what I saw wasn't the past but the future. Could grandmother have been reborn as a little boy? If so, am I able to see certain specific souls? I don't understand what abilities this holy relic has given me. For these 10 years, Vivi had been reading through Sienna's diary. Sorry I'm late, Miss Vivi. Hearing the voice, Vivi turned to look. Baldric, have you finished all the business you needed to handle? Vivi asked. I've already negotiated with the partner trading companies. Those trivial matters were left to Minerva. Minerva can already help you handle business? Baldric nodded. After all, he truly is talented. He graduated first in his class from Vivi Academy. Vivi Academy. It's a school founded for commoners, with a 6-year curriculum, 3 years each for elementary and intermediate levels. Because I donated the most to the academy's construction, it was named after me. When recruiting the first batch of teachers, I received help from Valletta. The school mainly hired people from various fields who, despite outstanding abilities, weren't well known due to their commoner status. As the academy cultivated graduates whose quality continued to improve, the academy's reputation also continued to rise. Although I hadn't yet held my social debut, all of Iberton already knew my name. The reason I came to the Rivera branch of the Arachila Trading Company is because of the DeVille Trading Company. Where exactly did this trading company come from, to be able to steal all our business on the Western continent? This trading company was the foundation stone of the Duchy of Nier, established 40 or 50 years ago, Baldric introduced. The Duchy of Nier? Vivi asked, puzzled. I've never heard of it. That's just an insignificant country, Baldric said. Despite having no economic foundation, this country began implementing aggressive trade policies 5 years ago. Now the DeVille Trading Company has even entered the empire. But doesn't that require permission from the imperial royal family? Vivi asked in shock. The Crown Prince actually agreed. Yes, not only that, Baldric answered. The Crown Prince is also making large investments in them. As far as I know, besides us, they've also invaded other trading companies' business territories. But the Crown Prince believes that capable people enjoying wealth is a matter of course. Hearing this, Vivi trembled with anger. No wonder he hasn't been shamelessly pestering us lately. So, about the DeVille Trading Company, have you found out anything? Vivi continued asking. Well, no intelligence guild can find out who the company head is. What? Doesn't that mean all intelligence about this trading company has been blocked? Yes, the DeVille Trading Company head also seems to have an intelligence guild. Moreover, this person always commissions the same mercenary guild to protect the trading company, but he doesn't go himself, so there are also rumors that the company head and the mercenary guild have joined forces. Vivi pondered this statement. What exactly is the background of this trading company? Got it. I'll also go inquire about this. Yes, miss. By the way, if you have time, would you like to dine with me tonight? That probably won't work. I already have an appointment to go to Countess Oldis's salon. Then I'll escort you to the door. Vivi never expected that upon going out she would see crowds of people outside. Duke's daughter, please look this way. You look beautiful today, too. Miss, since the school was established, your reputation has been rising, Baldric said. Vivi thought to herself, this isn't what I want at all. Thank you, everyone. Vivi displayed a very proper smile. However, fan service still needed to be given. Wow. Truly worthy of being the Duke's daughter, the crowd again exclaimed in amazement, scaring Vivi into quickly leaving. It's really quite embarrassing. At the oldest residence, Countess. Thank you for the invitation. Duke's daughter, thank you for coming from afar, Countess Oldest said. Have you greeted the other young ladies? Yes, Vivi answered. I haven't seen everyone for so long. I feel especially happy. By the way, is everyone here? Vivi asked. Not yet, actually, Countess Oldest said embarrassedly. Suddenly came an exclamation. My goodness, who is this? Duke's daughter, long time no see, Ariana said. Miss Ariana, and also Magina. I would actually meet them here. Vivi was somewhat surprised after seeing who it was. After the citrus incident spread in noble circles, nobles all spontaneously avoided inviting me and Ariana to the same gathering. Probably because they had to consider both our families' feelings, but thanks to this, I hadn't seen Ariana since then. Actually, I didn't know you were coming today, so I sent out invitation letters, Countess Oldest said apologetically. This wasn't Countess Oldest's fault, Vivi thought. Since things had come to this, I could only break through head-on. So Vivi said, that is to say, we haven't seen each other for several years. Although I know Andante Duke's daughter has never been very active in attending events, I didn't expect meeting you would be so difficult, Ariana said sarcastically. I'm not inactive at all, Vivi smiled and retorted. I just don't want to create opportunities to meet with unqualified people. Because if we met, who knows what incidents might happen again? Vivi looked at Magina beside Ariana. Unexpectedly, I would meet here Magina. who returned to her country after graduating from the Academy's advanced class several years ago. 5 years ago, when learning of Euston's demise, I had felt some sympathy for Megina, although I never forgot what the Adagio family had done. I never wished for them to die like that. Long time no see, Megina, Vivi actively asked. Yes, Megina nodded. By the way, Ariana said, after my father saw Miss Adagio's outstanding grace, he had plans to arrange a marriage between her and one of our family relatives. My goodness, really? Do you know which family's young master it is? The others heard this, and all gathered around Megina asking. Although it must still be kept secret, the news will spread soon, Ariana continued. However, Andante Duke's daughter seems too indifferent about this. You are relatives after all. At least say something. Regarding Ariana's intentions, Vivi understood clearly. She was planning to make me personally tell everyone that the Adagio family had been stripped of their title. It seems Ariana wants to use me to humiliate Megina. Megina is both a talented graduate from the Academy's advanced class and a beauty. For Ariana, Megina's existence can raise her standards while also threatening her position. Did she think I would obediently follow her wishes? I don't want to be her foolish pawn at all. I think, Vivi said, matters concerning private life should be discussed in private settings. After hearing Vivi's words, Ariana frowned with displeasure, then sighed, indeed so. Sorry about that. Megina, I always thought our relationship was particularly good, so I was rude. Ariana said apologetically, but without any real remorse. You needn't apologize, I wasn't displeased by this, Megina said. Ariana's acting has improved considerably during this period, Vivi thought. When she was young, she clearly couldn't even hide her own emotions well. Now even Megina probably doesn't live comfortably beside such an Ariana. Now let's, Countess Oldest said, sit down and have tea together. Yes, madam, thank you very much for everyone's presence today. This was truly delightful, Megina pressed her lips tightly. I graduated second in my class from the Continental Academy's advanced program. Many people extended olive branches to me because of this, but to obtain a title, I abandoned everything and returned to my homeland, Iberton. After that, to become a vassal of the Schwitz Duke family, I worked hard for 3 full years. However, what I received was only parents who never recovered from Euston's death, and the succession position of a minor local noble. Although Ariana lent me a house to live in the capital because I told her that Vivi was allergic to citrus, that couldn't satisfy me. If I need opportunities to climb up, I'll create them myself. Several days after Countess Oldest's gathering ended smoothly. I wonder what brings you here today? Andante Duke's daughter. This is the Blackbird Intelligence Guild that has recently risen in Iberton. 17 years ago, at Dobrel Wensa, my mother died in childbirth. I want to know whether this matter was related to the Schwitz Duke family, and the relationship between Stella Gisant, who was once my wet nurse, and Audrey Adagio. After reading Mother's diary at age 7, I had always harbored doubts about Mother's death. Although I very much wanted to immediately investigate the truth then, there were simply too few clues. Moreover, to gather more intelligence, I needed financial support. Even though I had accumulated some funds through the Arachila Trading Company, the portion I could actually use was still limited. And because I had undertaken many business projects, there were many matters requiring attention. But now, thanks to the people around me, the trading company had gradually stabilized, and the money I had saved was sufficient to pay for investigation costs, so I decided to formally begin investigating Mother's death. Do you have any other commission matters? I also want to know intelligence about the DeVille Trading Company. And I also want to know how a man named Esteban is doing. He's probably 21 or 22 this year, graduated from the Alancia Continental Academy's intermediate program. Can you accept this commission? Yes, we can. Then I'll leave it to you. Thank you very much for commissioning our guild. 10 years ago, after meeting Esteban for the first time during the first summer vacation, I never saw him again. Since the letters I sent never received replies, I was very worried whether Esteban had encountered danger. As a result, after inquiring with the Spirit Kings, I learned he was doing well, so I sent him a letter. Then I began thinking whether I had done something wrong. However, no matter how I thought about it, I really couldn't find an answer. Given that I couldn't always ask the Spirit Kings about Esteban's situation, I only hoped he was doing well. Why did you cut off contact with me? Esteban. In the desert of the Ebro Kingdom, Esteban picked up the fallen letter. It was a yellow envelope, and the contents inside seemed very important. Black Raven Rivera Fen Division reports to Lord Esteban. The guild has received a commission from the only daughter of the Andante Duke family, Vivian Dante, requesting information about the DeVille Trading Company and you. Vivi, Esteban was stunned. However, she seems to have come to commission us only because she learned of your relationship with the trading company. Should the guild refuse commissions related to you? Yes. Vivi is looking for me. Esteban lowered his head. I'm sorry, but without being able to break the prophecy, I'm not yet qualified to stand before you. Vivi, you are my benefactor. Once the prophecy is broken, I will definitely help you achieve your dream of conquering the world. So, after graduating from the academy, I established a guild together with my former roommate, Arno Whiteson. Whiteson, as a strategist with deep knowledge in various fields, and Arno, who excels in practical magic with exceptional application abilities. Plus myself as the main force, we jointly created the Black Raven Intelligence Guild, the DeVille Trading Company, and the Tarsa Mercenary Guild. Although I want to see you right now, I'm not strong enough yet, and the timing isn't right. Only tell her the information about me that's publicly available. Cooperate with all her other commissions. To protect you, Esteban murmured. I will definitely find the rebellious sword. A few days later, Dad, I'm back. Vivi, you came back 3 days early, the Duke said joyfully. Because I thought you would miss me, Vivi said. Do you want me to come back later? How could that be? That's good then. I actually came to invite you to dine with me. Are you in a meeting? Vivi peered inside. The meeting has already ended, the Duke said. The others silently complained in their hearts. Lies! It just started. Do all these dishes suit your taste? The Duke asked. Vivi nodded. Dad, I'm curious about something. What is it? The Duke asked. If I brought home a marriage partner, what would you do? The Duke, who had been smiling, immediately became serious upon hearing Vivi's words. You said, marriage partner? Vivi, you're not saying that during your time in the capital you met someone you want to marry, are you? No, that's not what I mean. It's just that I'm approaching marriageable age. Vivi quickly waved her hands in explanation. So, I wanted to ask you first, what if I had a marriage partner? What would you do? Vivi asked tentatively. I would eliminate him, the Duke said coldly. Huh? Vivi was stunned. No, that's not right. I mean, he would have to duel with me first. After all, I need to confirm whether he has the ability to protect you. The Duke coughed twice in explanation. So Dad wants to kill the other party. Vivi couldn't help but worry. This definitely means he will kill someone. Woo. In my 3 lifetimes, I haven't even had a single romantic experience. But regardless, this lifetime has been very happy. Speaking of which, if the person dating me were the crown prince, with Dad's attitude, he'd probably declare war on the Empire. Dad, Vivi said, I was just making a hypothetical. You don't need to worry too much. I don't have anyone I'm dating. All right, the Duke sighed in relief. Then tell me now, you have something to say to me, don't you? Vivi asked. Even before I brought up the topic of marriage, your expression didn't look good. I'm fine with it, just tell me directly. The Duke fell silent, thinking of what he had just learned not long ago. That person and Vivi are twins, the Duke asked incredulously. Absolutely impossible. But if your Grace says it's not true, that person bears too much resemblance to the late Duchess and the young lady. No, Sienna wasn't carrying twins at the time. But in early pregnancy, even twins wouldn't be obvious, would they? Plus, during the Duchess's delivery, none of us were present. Since that person has a letter from the Duchess's exclusive maid as proof, we can't blindly deny that he isn't the young lady's twin brother. Baron Pained, that person was found by you near the capital, and he also possesses a letter from Sienna's exclusive maid, Rose, correct? That's right, Your Grace. Someone read out the letter's contents. Because someone attempted to harm the Duchess, I had no choice but to send away the newborn young master. This is Duchess Sienna's son. And I am Duchess Sienna's exclusive maid, Rose. According to the appraisal results, the handwriting of this letter is indeed consistent with that of the deceased maid. Could that person really be? Then why did he suddenly appear now, claiming to be one of the twins born to the Duchess? Why don't we have this person undergo a blood relation test? Among relatives, the magical power arrangement in hair can achieve 20% consistency. Since the Elixira Trading Company introduced blood relation testing technology using this characteristic 6 years ago, this technology has been widely applied to verify blood relationships. However, this 20% applicable range includes not only parents and children, but also people with blood relations, so the test results aren't completely accurate. But there's no other way right now. So the Duke ordered, contact Elixira Trading Company's leader, Baron Novus, immediately and commission him to conduct a blood relation test. Also, Baron Ostash will be responsible for protecting that person and his adoptive parents. Yes, Your Grace, although I want to immediately find the mastermind behind all this and tear them to pieces, even for Vivi's sake, I can only choose to be patient for now and wait for the test results. After hearing the Duke's account, Vivi stated with certainty, this is impossible. I remember everything that happened when I was born, but I never heard another child's crying. Moreover, no one has ever mentioned that person before. How could he suddenly appear now? Vivi, I'm sorry to tell you about this, the Duke said. You don't need to apologize, Vivi replied. I'm fine. Actually, I'm more worried that you'll be more confused than I am. Vivi, you must pull yourself together, Vivi thought. The other party dares to exploit Dad's longing for Mom. This time, I must personally resolve this matter and show no mercy. Miss, this is too outrageous, Baldric said loudly upon learning of this. This is clearly a conspiracy. There's absolutely no way such a thing could happen. Baldric, Vivi said, it looks like the test results are out? Yes, I'm sorry, miss. Your feelings must be more complicated than anyone else's, Baldric said. The blood relation test results show that the magical power consistency rate between that person's and the Duke's hair is above 20%. I see, Vivi said. Actually, I already somewhat expected this. After all, the other party couldn't have planned such a thing without preparation. But relatives also have a 20% consistency rate, so we can't easily draw conclusions yet. Exactly, Baldric said. But generally speaking, when unknown relatives appear, and that person also has a letter in hand, it seems the Duke's family has no choice but to accept him. Miss, you must be mentally prepared. If that person is really recognized as the Duke's son, I understand, Vivi said. Then I'll have to engage in a succession struggle with him. Just like when Euston was still around, those elders and retainers who look down on me will definitely strongly support him, using the reason that Mason is a son. Miss, Baldric suddenly said excitedly, I will always stand by your side. The wealth you've accumulated over the years is no small amount. Thank you, Vivi smiled. You should go tell Dad about the test results. First. After the blood relation test results came out, Dad summoned all the retainers. After several days of heated discussion, Mason and his family finally came to the Duke's castle. A few days later, Vivi had dinner with Mason for the first time. Mason, Vivi said, I'm glad to meet you. Hello, I'm also very happy to meet you, Miss Duke. I'm called Vivi. Please sit down first. Vivi pointed to the chair in front of her. Okay, Mason nodded. Vivi took a closer look at Mason's appearance. The other party is quite good at finding people. He really does look like me. He even perfectly displays the persona of someone who hasn't received proper education but is very kind. This kind of acting is exactly to the taste of those who oppose me. I heard we might be twin siblings, so it should be fine if I speak more casually with you, right? Vivi asked. Oh, of course, Mason stammered. You can also be more casual, Vivi continued. Just call me Vivi directly. Okay, Mason nodded. Welcome to the Duke's castle. To celebrate, I plan to decorate your room. What do you think? My room? I know a furniture brand that I often buy from called Bikaya. If that's possible, I would be very grateful. There are too many things to handle, the Duke said as he walked in. I'm a bit late. Sorry to keep you waiting. It's fine, Vivi replied. Mason and I were having a pleasant chat. I see, the Duke said, turning to look at Mason. You've come from far away. It must have been hard. Mason was startled and quickly said, Nitrogen nobelium, it wasn't hard. After the Duke sat down, the atmosphere became quite silent. This atmosphere is too awkward, Vivi thought, so she started looking for topics. Oh right, Leon's birthday is coming up. I plan to invite Leon and Rian to the Duke's castle. Is that okay? Of course, the Duke nodded. They haven't been to the Duke's castle in a long time. Yes, and I think the timing is quite good now. Leon and Rian are my cousins, so they'd be your cousins too, Vivi said to Mason. Ah, Mason responded. I see. They have a good relationship with me, and they'll definitely become good older brothers to you too. Meanwhile, Vivi said to her cousins, so please help me monitor him from the side. Anyway, we just need to teach that imposter a lesson, right? Leon and Rian asked. No, Vivi shook her head. You just need to monitor him from the side. Got it? I'll take good care of him with my fists. As agreed, I sent some furniture to Mason as gifts. A mirror with surveillance function and a desk equipped with listening devices. They were made by Henderson and the Magic Tower. Actually, our family can also make magical items, but considering that might be noticed by the retainers supporting Mason, I deliberately requested the Magic Tower to make them. Baldric has confirmed that the wiretapping and surveillance functions are working normally. I decided to continue having Minerva manage the data. Everything is ready. Since the other party has made such a despicable move, I must fight back in the same way. In the room, Mason cursed. Damn it! I've been in the Duke's castle for almost 2 weeks now. Forget getting close to the Duke. We haven't even had a proper conversation. I have no idea what the Duke is thinking. And whenever I try to approach the Duke, Vivi appears to interfere. If I want to meet with the retainers and elders, those two brothers from the Count Arret family appear like ghosts immediately, taking up my time with those damn etiquette books and self-defense training. Don't they find it annoying? Although I originally wanted to avoid contact as much as possible, I have no choice now. Soon, Mason placed a small box from his pocket on the desk and began chanting an incantation. The next second, a person appeared in the mirror. May God's grace be with you. Mason, how have you been during this time? Yes, Mason answered. Thanks to God's mercy, I haven't been exposed and am currently serving as God's servant on a mission, Your Eminence. I've been sharing your vision through divine arts, so I know why you contacted me, Bishop Novite said. I'm very sorry, Your Eminence, Mason said. This isn't your fault. It seems we need to deal with those two young masters from the Count Arret family first. So I'll go to the High Priest and get his permission to add poison that causes fever and diarrhea to the wells in Count Iret's territory. This way, the Arret brothers will have to return, Mason said. Exactly. When that time comes, you can act. I understand, Your Eminence. May God's grace be with you always. The several people watching this scene stood there in a daze. Mason's mastermind is actually the temple. Vivi was very surprised. That bastard, I'm going to kill him right now. Leon was furious. Leon, wait. If we capture Mason now, we won't be able to track down his backers. Is this just Bishop Novitai acting alone? Or is the entire temple, including the high priest, involved? We need to confirm this clearly. Are you planning to just cut off their tail and leave it at that? Damn it, then what should we do? Are we supposed to just watch the residents of our territory suffer? Leon asked angrily. I'll send the Duke's castle's chief physician, Dr. Larry, and Sir Ortiz over, Vivi said. Dr. Larry is skilled at detoxification, and Sir Ortiz can capture them before they poison the water. Most importantly, just to be safe, it's safer for you two brothers to stay in the Duke's castle. Alright, then we'll temporarily monitor Mason with you, Leon said. After everything ends smoothly, we'll return to the Count's territory. Vivi nodded. That would be excellent. Also, what do you think about this? Vivi asked. His eyes changed color. The communication device Mason used cannot be detected by the Duke's castle's magical power detector. From this point, it should be a special communication device powered by divine power. In this case, his eyes temporarily changing color was probably due to using divine power to activate the communication device. He likely used divine power to change his appearance, and just now, because he activated the communication device, the divine power became unstable, Rian speculated. That's why part of his original appearance was revealed. Wait, divine power can change a person's appearance? Vivi asked in surprise.